No. No, I'm gonna get some sleep. All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. It's pretty cool that I was able to stream for 3 hours and get 3 days worth of content on the YMS Highlights channel. Apparently, people think that streaming for 3 hours means that you're spending 3 weeks on something, but whatever. All right, good night, everybody. Chris Raygun is streaming. Maybe I will raid Chris Raygun then.
Oh, shit! Oh, no! Adam! You son of a bitch. What an appropriate time to be raiding. We were just talking about custom suits. And somebody asked me if I had a fursuit. Thanks so much for the raid, man. We're just fucking around. We're just, I know Destiny's not exactly the coolest game to be playing, you know. It's not exactly an epic gamer game, you know. It's not League of Legends or, Katamari Damacy. But, I enjoy it. You have a Luna, you have a fursuit, really? Like, actually? That's not, like, unbelievable, you know?
Chris saw my friend's fursuit IRL.
I did see your friend's fursuit IRL. Was that the day we were watching, Tickled, the documentary? I think it was. Lol, I have one, but it's not like, full-on mascot type ones. That's interesting. I literally just have a Fallout costume. That's all I have.
I believe so. My friend Giant, her fursuit, makes a cameo in the Shrek Retold 2 film coming out soon.
Yeah, that's Shrek 2 Retold. I have a part in that as well. I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited about that. Oh no, Shrek 2 really is the best sequel ever made. I don't give a shit what Derek says. It is. Shrek 2 is the best sequel considering what it's a sequel to. Like, there are definitely better movies with 2 in the name than Shrek 2, but the quality leap from Shrek 1 to Shrek 2 is just absurd. It's like, I really don't know how to describe it. We gotta do Halo co-op stream sometime when my wrist is better in a couple weeks. Absolutely, man. I would love that. What happened to your wrist? Everybody's hurting themselves. Like, I sprained my ankle. Like, everybody's, like, destroying their bodies. What's going on? Oh, shit. Overworking tendonitis. I don't even have a good excuse. I literally just stepped on my foot like an idiot. Almost recovered? Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling like I can walk again, and it only hurts in, like, if I bend it specific ways, but I don't know. It's unfortunate. Aw, thank you, Adam, for the little Twitch Prime sub. You didn't have to do that. My heart beats for you. I talked to Adam for the first time in, like, a while on Vosh's stream the other time. It was free. I know it was free. I appreciate it. Nonetheless. That was a fun time. I never sprang or broken anything. Honestly, I regret. You don't listen. You don't have to regret not breaking anything. Breaking and spraining things are not. It's not like a fun thing. I can tell you, having sprained my ankle, I haven't broken anything, but I sprained my ankle recently, and I gotta tell you, I much prefer having not have sprained my ankle. Wild fact. Come to Canada, all the other American friends I have are fucking lame and don't want to visit outside their own country. I want to go, I want to visit, I have a friend in the UK that I was supposed to see in 2020. So I'm gonna try, like, later this year, I think, like, sometime, not ideally, but, like, in, like, September, fly there, and then while I'm kind of on the, on the move, and while I got my passport on me, I think I might fly to, like, Seattle and like make the trek, because I do want to like fly around, especially now that we can move around freely, at least for now. I have a big itch to like see a bunch of people that I was just like not able to see. It's fucking sucked. I have a friend in the UK that I never met in person. I've known him since 2006. We met on Halo 2, and I never met him in person. And I was supposed to see him in 2020, and then the world stopped. Can I join your chat on Discord in a few mins, by the way? My chat? On Discord? I don't really use... Wait, what do you mean? Like, do I have... Adam, do I have you on Discord? I feel like I started using Discord after. Same, Devious and I have known each other for almost 5-ish years, and he's in Englishire. UK friends rule. Yeah, man, they're the best. Do I have you? I gotta... Hold on. Let me turn on this... Yeah, there we go. This is okay.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. Let me just make sure the audio.
Yeah,
levels are good.
I was doing my own stream and was gonna go to bed, but I could stay up for a couple.
Yeah, my sleep schedule has been destroyed. Yeah, I never actually.
Yeah.
It's really rare that I stream with. Like, I usually stream just by myself, so I'm not used to having to do the audio thing.
Yeah, I hear you. Me too.
Yeah, but
we're not debate bros.
we're not. I really.
Although I get the itch every so often, and I have to convince myself out of it because it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I'm really not good live in that specific context, because I lose interest in what I'm talking about so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody comes to me in like a debate stream and they're like, well, I have a study that disproves your point, and I'd be like, well, I didn't see that one, I guess. All right.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm able to defend my positions pretty well, but I don't really come at my own positions from like an academic perspective. I come at them from more of like a philosophical perspective.
Right.
And I don't think I necessarily need to read a lot of theory or have a lot of studies to back up my own beliefs from my personal perspective, because it's all like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, if I'm going to argue something, it's going to be like entirely subjective, right? So it would more or less be about like how something's interpreted, rather than like what the baseline facts are, I guess. I don't know. Depends on the subject.
That's kind of how if I'm approaching an argument, I usually come at it from just like a principle perspective, like not necessarily of just like I don't have anything offhand that can prove what I'm saying. It's just like from a base. I don't think I necessarily argue anything that's not pretty common sense, oriented.
Well, I feel like a lot of the arguments that people are having, like, sure, there are, factual perspectives to have that correlate with these arguments, but like a lot of the time when I see people arguing on Twitter, and I'm like, man, I almost jump in, but I don't, and I'm so glad I didn't. It's like, these people 95% agree with each other and are just basically arguing about semantics or like just tiny, minute details.
Yeah. That's a pretty common thing, too, the whole... Like, I feel like a lot of arguments online are pretty semantic. Like, I feel like most people... And you know this... I know this just based on, like, having been in rooms with people, and we'll talk, and then, like, oh, it's fine in person because we can actually, like, calmly, like, lay out what these terms mean. But then when it's on Twitter and you have, like, a limited character set, well, suddenly everybody's like really weird about it.
Twitter is like designed to spread information to as much reach as possible with as little context as possible.
Yeah.
So it's like literally the worst place to have any sort of like productive discussion about any societal issue ever. Yet these conversations happen and people act as though they're having like legitimate conversations on these issues, but they're not. Right?
Yeah.
It's frustrating and stressful to watch, but it's a good reminder as to why I don't participate for the most part.
Yeah, that is
I
fair.
mostly just shitpost.
Sometimes on Twitter, if something's just so obvious, and I'm just like, I'm never like in a fuming rage whenever I tweet something. It's usually just like I'm on the toilet or something and I'm bored and passing time.
In a pooping rage.
Yeah, just like, I got to pass time here. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes on Twitter I'll jump into stuff, but like it's very rare, if ever. I think the last time I was even on a stream with another person was the Vosh thing that we did together, and then before that I can't even remember. Like, sincerely, unless it's like a joint stream with my roommate, which happens sometimes, but I don't really do the whole live debate shit. I'm also just not good at debating. Like, I can't do that. That's like a skill set. You don't even really have to be right to be good at debating. You just have to kind of sound more confident than the other person.
Yeah, I don't do like a whole... Well, yeah, I guess it depends what you're getting out of a debate, and like... Because, like, you can have an audience large enough that will just support you no matter what you say.
Yeah.
And so if you're participating in a debate like that, what you're going to get out of it, it's like, okay, you have to feel as though you defended yourself well, but not necessarily win over every single person, because you can't, because there's some people that are just literally attached to the other personality, right? So it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing on the internet. It's like, I like that it exists. It's entertaining and I watch it. I'm not completely sold on like its viability in terms of like doing good for society.
What are you talking about? Like like live debates, or are you talking about just like Twitter discourse?
I guess just like the Twitter especially, but like there are the same criticisms, I guess, to a lesser extent with online debates. I like that at least in that scenario, there are people that, whether or not they, at least feel like, or at least have the facade of being able to articulate their full positions. But depending on who is participating in the conversation, depending on like what kind of dynamic there is or what kind of format there is, it's like, I've seen so many debates where it's like, there's just somebody like steamrolling the entire time, and they're so crazy that they're just like talking over the other person, and they won't hear no for an answer, or they just make shit up, or they like refuse to see any sort of like criticisms within themselves. Sorry, not naming any names, because these are the type of people that would be linked me talking about them, and then I'd be in that whole pool of drama, which I just absolutely refuse to participate in. But that does exist, right?
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think they're useful in a very specific way. I think Vosh is pretty good at like really because I've seen debates of his where he's just like, he's talking to somebody who's just objectively crazy, at least in my view, like people who are just like pretty far gone. But I think that for like your average person, I think it does help to see, even if somebody reminds you of your side in like a really kind of like unappealing way, where it's like, oh man, this is not the best showcase for our guys, but I kind of see myself in this. It's kind of helpful to see that kind of torn down a little bit. I think that kind of content is more persuasive than, or at least it I feel like it turns more people over than like these really long, like hour-long video essays that are really kind of more about, I feel like they're more preach to the choir type deals.
It depends. It really depends on the type of person.
That's true,
I'm just like, as a person that consumes a lot of this political content without necessarily making a lot of political content, I'm just like, I'm happy that there's a lot of different things that exist, because regardless of whether of where you are in the political spectrum, if you're making content, there's always the argument of like, oh, you're a gateway to this, you're a gateway to that. Like, Joe Rogan's a gateway to the alt-right. He's also a gateway out of the alt-right. You could be a person watching, I don't know, like let's say a centrist, and then watch Joe Rogan, and then all of a sudden you're watching Richard Spencer, right? But then you could also make the argument that like someone watching Richard Spencer would then watch Joe Rogan and then become a centrist, right? So I appreciate that there's different people having different conversations, and there's this like connecting web where hopefully somebody who cares about their own political awareness can make their own decisions and decide where they're going to go.
Yeah,
on the spectrum,
that whole pipeline thing, it's weird because I understand what they're trying to say and what they're saying, because like obviously like social media, that's how social media works. Like they want you to engage with extreme content to keep you on the platform for as long as possible. It's literally just the cornerstone
in your bubble.
Yeah, it's literally just the cornerstone of how these websites exist and continue to make money. But at the same time, like I've gotten like countless messages of people telling me like, yeah, you pulled me out of that pipeline, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know what the hell to make of this then, because
every argument that a person existing causes a pipeline in the supposed wrong direction is an argument for a person existing, with a pipeline in the opposite direction, right?
Yeah,
so it's like weird to accuse someone as like, oh, you exist and you're connecting these two groups on either political side. It's like, oh, well, theoretically, I don't know, the same amount of people brought to the right would be also brought to the left from the right.
Yeah,
it's a weird criticism.
It's weird. I don't know. I that whole thing, it feels weird because on one hand, I've definitely seen people get like pulled into like weird rabbit holes, and then it's like really sad. So I get it, but at the same time, I can't help but shake this feeling where it's like I was exposed to all of the same content that these people are talking about. Actually, I've seen like some more like extreme shit. I remember watching like
tons
videos
of extreme shit.
Yeah, like I remember watching videos of like Stefan Molyneux out of curiosity, like, who is this guy? Mm-hmm. And like even like people like Jared Taylor, who is like literally just this white supremacist dude who lives in Japan. He's like a weird guy, like a confusing character of a human. And I was exposed to that content for years, and I never came out of any of that like adopting the worldview of these people. So like to me it just feels like I get that this pipeline exists, and I get that there are people who are like a little bit more malleable than other people, but at the same time I have a hard time empathizing with the idea that my video in like 2017 about an article on BuzzFeed that is still cringe by today's standard is what drove you to becoming a white supremacist. At a certain point, you gotta take responsibility for like what you did. And like, I don't know, like, it's weird. Maybe that's coming from a position of being just fortunate that like maybe I was maybe a bit older when this content started to emerge, and I had more of a developed sense of who I was, and I'm sure like a lot of younger people.
Well, I mean, like I don't know if necessarily age has to do with it. Some people are more open-minded than others, but like if you break down the human population to just like pure statistics, then you understand that like most people are fucking sheep, unironically. Like, okay, yeah, sure, it's a meme, but like most people look to others for guidance, even if they don't believe they do, even if they don't necessarily think that they're a person that like picks up cues from other people, right? Like, and we, if we're being self-critical of ourselves, then we could imagine like, okay, maybe that we are also these people ourselves, even if we don't believe they are. But statistically, most human beings are this way, regardless of whether or not we believe we are, right? And so I don't know, like, I understand the concern that, like, yes, if you propagate something that is not as far left as it could be, then you are leading into the far right, right? If you're not ideally far left enough, then you are creating a pipeline because you're connecting this trajectory, I guess. But, like, to get upset about that would be to be so naive about the variety of human brains that exist, to be upset about like this middle connecting tissue that should exist, really, if we are to believe that like human brains are different, if we are to believe that like, yeah, there's people on the right, there's people on the left, and there's a spectrum in between, right? Like that's what should exist, and people should be able to figure out what they are over time, and perhaps shift a little bit right, a little bit left over time, like that. there should be the space available for people to come to their own conclusions about that. I get that, but like in terms of the overall marketplace of ideas, if we want to call it that,
Yeah.
I think the reason why in 2015 right-leaning ideas were so popular, and now in the year 2021 it seems like it's being shifted back to the left, is because of the caliber of like what people were arguing online. If we're specifically talking about online spaces, right?
Yeah.
So in 2015, the big conversation was about, really, it was like about censorship, was about like SJW shit, was like, you know, a lot of people were first exposed to this whole like, I don't know, triggly puff sort of thing, being like, oh, I didn't know that existed, and all of a sudden, you know, like YouTube's a new, fairly new medium that like a lot of people are being exposed to.
Yeah,
It was
definitely
like really popularized, right?
At that time. It especially was newly. I don't want to say corporatized, but I have a hard time thinking of a better word. But it was definitely more established than like the Ray William Johnson days, and
yeah,
you know,
and an important thing to consider about that era is like a lot of people who are generally on the left were kind of in bed with and adopting a lot of positions of people on the right, not necessarily because they were right-leaning positions, but because they were like overall generally principled positions, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, generally, whether you're on the left or the right, you want to be pro free speech. You know, if you were talking X amount of years before 2015, it was crazy conservative Christian moms that were trying to ban shit in media. You know, if you hold true to that principle, then you would say, I'm a principled person, and whether or not it's coming from the left or the right, I am against that sort of thing. And so that's what drew a lot of people in. And then, unfortunately, X amount of people who were drawn in by that decided to keep going and adopt a lot of like weird, crazy conservative shit.
Yeah.
Turned into like neo-Nazism and just like, oh, this is where the money is, or oh, this is like, I don't know, maybe they were just fucked up in the head. Like, I don't know. Some people just kept going with it.
Yeah,
and then other people
I remember
were like,
being really confused because I was like,
Yeah.
wait, I don't understand. Like, it felt. I do think a lot of them. A culture of contrarianism. Somebody Bugsy Go in my chat says. I do think that was also kind of. I think. For the most part, and I can tell you this from conversations that I've had, there's a lot of people online who were big in that time who just didn't believe a word of what they were fucking saying. Who were literally just, they were there to kind of like milk what was like, okay, this is like a popular thing.
That's a big problem, right? Because like, if it's 2015 and we're suddenly exposed to a lot of triggly puffs saying, keep this hate speech off of this campus, and it's literally just Milo saying, feminism is cancer, and he moves on with his day, that paints a really bad picture for the left. And any principled person is going to look at that and be like, what the fuck, right? Like like the average person is going to look at that and being like, what the like, this is clearly a problem here. Whether or not it's just solely online, right?
That is the issue that I have with a lot of people who are like, you know, a lot of people like to kind of reframe their own journey or whatever in a more positive light. But like, I remember seeing a lot kind of recently in like the last year or two, like, oh, I can't believe I used to have an anti-SJW phase in those days, and it's like, I don't think you remember what that content was.
Yeah, I mean,
back,
like,
because a lot
it's
of
not
it
even necessarily anti-SJW. You could just say anti-authoritarian, whether or not like
it's just basic
anti-authoritarian from the left or from the right, and it depends on what lens was offered to you at what point in time, right?
And it got
what was the purveying message on the internet.
It definitely went off the rails with time. I think like at a certain point, I can't remember exactly when, but there were definitely some people who like just ran off the. I think it was like a poisoning of the well, where it was just like, I remember just looking around one day and being like, "Yo, what the fuck is?"
Yeah,
it bothered me too because you could. I remember seeing videos in my recommended that I'm like, "Why is this in my recommended?" I wish as a YouTuber I had control over like. I just wish, like, as a YouTuber, I could have control over, like, what comes up in my recommended. At least, like, I could, like, maybe take something out of it if I thought it was just not supposed to be there. I feel like that wouldn't be, like, a big deal to have that amount of control. Because I feel like it would have solved a lot of problems. Because I didn't want to be, like, in recommendeds
Maybe.
next to fucking no bullshit, you know what I mean? Like,
That's funny.
What the hell is that?
No, yeah, but here's the thing: is like that's kind of inevitable because like
That's true,
as soon
yeah.
as you, so if you think of like human beings in a group as like a statistic, right? These are not individuals, right? So the overall umbrella of feminism, you can say feminism as a whole is a noble cause. There are people with noble goals within it, but at the same time, it does attract power-hungry people who will exploit certain social dynamics and certain benefits from the umbrella of feminism for their own personal gain because they're assholes. In the
Right.
same respect, the exact same thing could be said about men's rights. The exact same thing could be said about conservatism. The exact same thing could be said, like every group, no matter how noble its goals, will attract people looking to exploit that because they're human beings, and human beings will exploit anything that they possibly can. If you
Right.
give any power in any certain direction ever, there will be somebody looking to exploit that because they're a fucking asshole. And unfortunately, these people exist, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it's
totally.
Just,
Yeah,
it's
you're
just an inevitability, really.
Somebody in the chat, I missed it. I missed the name, but he was like, a lot of people, realized that they weren't anti-SJW, they were just anti-batshit insane. I will say,
yeah,
I will say,
and that was the purveying attitude.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was exaggerated, that was the theme that was on the internet. And you could make the argument saying like, yeah, it was over exaggerated. Maybe like what was on the internet wasn't happening in real life. It wasn't a real issue, but a lot of people were attracted to that, regardless of whether or not it was like a global regardless of whether or not people thought Trigglypuff was going to take over the world, right? Like that obviously wasn't happening, but it was a conversation about like social expectations and social normalcy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, including yourself, including myself, even though I didn't have a political commentary channel, but I had these probably same beliefs, I felt some sort of like principle, and I felt some sort of justification in upholding these principles, being like, okay, perhaps I agree with some conservatives on some things, but this is like, I would criticize my own political beliefs as much as I would criticize the opposite. And
Right.
so I'm being fair. Unfortunately, like I said with feminism, with people viewing an opportunity to exploit, that was a moment where conservatives saw an opportunity to exploit and were like, oh yes, we are totally principled and we would totally criticize our own side, but they were lying and they were only criticizing the left, and that's where the divide happened.
Yeah.
And that's where the breakoff point happened, where it was like, oh, now it's like time to criticize the right and they're not doing it. Oh, you were lying the whole time? I was serious.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun moment in time.
Yeah.
It's really, I don't know. It's a little frustrating because I remember that's what I thought I was doing. Like I remember because I'm liberal, so I should be able to like point out the flaws of. I don't want people thinking that this. I didn't want people thinking that the stuff that I was making fun of represented me. Like I was like, hey, listen, I'm on this side politically, but
Yeah.
I want everybody to know that this is weird. And this is strange,
For
you're
the sake
not
of fairness.
Yeah, and I was just like, you're not weird or a bad person for thinking it's a lot of this stuff is
Yeah.
really kind of kooky and bizarre. Like it's a
And-
fairly reasonable assumption to come to. But
And
then
not-
it was just
not
like,
just-
oh well,
sorry.
no, I'm sorry, but like, and then it became like, oh, but you're only criticizing these because you are right wing, and it's like, wait, no, you can. And that's where I think it kind of, because once people who are on the side of the thing that they're criticizing get lumped in with the people who are like completely antithetical or like completely against it, then there's really no bridge there, where it just kind of becomes this entire side that you can just ignore.
There's this weird problem that perhaps we were naive in not understanding that this existed before internet video culture, but like it seems pretty consistent over time. But like people on the left are more willing to criticize their own, and
That's true.
as somebody who exists on the left, I think if somebody in my political spectrum somebody who's LGBT or, just generally wanting good social programs or something, left-leaning position. If somebody's doing something that's like absolutely fucking insane and just like any rational, normal person would just be like, that's fucking crazy, it makes sense to call it out, not just because like, oh yeah, you're not trying to paint a picture that people on the left are just idiots, but you're trying to be able to show people who aren't on your side that like, yes, there are also people on the left that think this is stupid. I am a person on the left that agrees with you that this is fucking bullshit. Maybe the left is an attractive position to have, right?
Right.
If you're not so extreme, then perhaps there are some conservatives or some moderates that would be like, oh, not everybody on the left is so extreme. Look at that guy, right? Like they agree that this is a stupid position.
That was what I was hoping for.
The problem is, right? Yeah, exactly. Everybody hopes for that, but as you find out over time, conservatives aren't doing that. Right? And then it creates this weird like imbalance where like, okay, there are Democrats, left-leaning people who are doing shitty things. Some of them are pedophiles. Some of them are like committing fraud. We call it out. We cancel them. They're fucked. Conservatives, liberals are all screaming at these people. Done. And then there's an even higher amount of those people, pedophiles, fraudsters, whatever, on the conservative side. And then liberals are calling them out, and conservatives are going like, nah, nothing wrong is happening
yeah, like
here.
Roy,
and then it creates this
Roy
weird
Moore.
Facade, right? Where like in the conservative mind, nothing is going wrong here. And it seems like to them, only liberals are doing bad things because the liberals admit when they're doing bad things, but the conservatives never admit when they're doing bad things, so nothing bad is happening in the conservative side, right?
Yeah.
So
the most,
it's like
it's
it's the honesty of the left that is like killing the left in a way, which is unfortunate to think about because I like being honest. I don't want to think that it's strategically disadvantageous to be honest, but holy fuck, it seems like it's not working.
It does feel that way.
Fuck, it's a rude awakening. It's terrible.
It's really,
right?
because I remember when, wait, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, it reminded me of like, do you remember Roy Moore? He was like some.
The name sounds so familiar, but you'll have to.
It was one of these situations where like he was like endorsed by Trump or whatever the hell, but he was like just straight up an actual, like, he had some child-oriented accusations, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a few.
I don't remember seeing really anybody make a big stink about it on that side. It was kind of crazy. Like, it was just like, oh, yeah. Even, what is it, Matt Gaetz?
They're lying! You can't trust the liberal media.
Oh, man.
Nothing's happening. It's a political smear, but then if it's happening on the left, it's, like, totally true, because everybody's willing to, like, they're willing to, like, hold their feet to the fire, but fuck. It just creates this, like, weird, disproportionate
there is also, like,
public perception.
Yeah, there is also, like, the whole purity test angle, too, that exists, that just doesn't exist in the same way over there.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
But what's really interesting is the current political climate in the U.S. where conservatives are kind of having their first, like, disagreement of, like, Trumpism versus, like, classical conservatism, which is really interesting to me because, like, generally, otherwise, conservatives fall in line and are just one party, right?
Yeah, generally speaking.
This is actually, like, kind of an issue with the multiple party system in Canada, where it's like one conservative party and then like 4 left parties, and then sometimes conservatives win elections because the left vote is split. Where it's like conservatives are voting for one party, and then the left-leaning people are voting for like 4 different parties. It's like, oh shit.
I do feel like
60% of the country is voting for left parties, but sometimes conservatives win.
Yeah, it's kind of like how, like, for years, conservatives were able to pass legislation, but, like, for whatever reason, super left-leaning, or the left-leaning party in the United States barely gets really any. It's really Republican light, in a lot of ways. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. This is definitely, like, the fact that Trump has like shoved such a wedge in that party is like one of the most interesting things to come out of this whole thing. Because I really have no idea how.
I'm very excited to see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be curious. It'll be a curious time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll find out in 2022
Yeah, that's right.
midterms
We'll see.
whether or not Boebert and Magic the Gathering are still there.
Boebert?
I don't know. Lauren Boebert? Is that one?
Oh, is that her name? I haven't been paying.
Boebert.
I've been.
Do I know more like,
Probably.
about your
I kind
country?
of. Honestly,
There's Madison
like.
Cawthorn, Lauren Boebert, and Magic the Gathering.
I'll be real.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I did kind of tune out for a while.
Oh, that's
Especially in the last year, I was just like, oh man, I'm this year is so miserable.
tuned out of your whole country.
Yeah, I was just like, this is not.
And that's the American privilege you have there. It's just
It
being
is.
able to tune out out of politics.
That is true. I try to stay like I don't know. I try to stay like slightly or as aware as I can be, but like honestly, I don't know. It's just miserable sometimes. Where it's just like,
I understand.
yeah, you got to take a
I
break
live in a
every now
better
and again.
country, but I'm not allowed to vote in your elections despite your country influencing what happens in my country, which is really annoying. The whole drug war was a U.S. thing. Why was that, like, global? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, everybody
Fuck
agreed on
off.
that for some reason.
Yeah, because the U.S. bullied other countries into doing it. Why would I face any sort of consequences for pirating or copyright infringing American copyrighted content? Like, fuck off. Like, your country influences so much and it's really annoying, and I don't get to vote on it.
Yeah,
What?
it is kind of interesting.
You affect
Just-
my laws.
Yeah, the America affects the world in like
Global
in
superpower.
a way that probably no other superhero does. Maybe China has a similar amount of like influence, but not over here in the same way.
Not cultural in the West.
Yeah. Not in the same ways. Like obviously, like they're
Yeah.
hugely influential on their side of the world, and I think they're influential in our
Economically, really.
yeah, and economically over here, and in some aspects of our media. Like I remember when I remember when
Yeah,
what is it
movies now.
the oh my god, what the hell was it? It was the Call of Duty
Mulan?
trailer. No, the Call of Duty
Oh.
trailer where like because Tencent had purchased. I think Tencent has like a stake in Activision or something. Like they're pretty tied together. And the new Call of Duty trailer had a shot of Tiananmen Square, and they pulled it down and re-uploaded it without that footage.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember
that.
being like,
That's funny.
that is concerning. At least, like, you know,
Yeah.
it's not the most important thing that's happening, obviously, but I remember seeing that being like, that's weird and eerie.
Yeah, it's always like kind of Orwellian when
Yeah.
an American company, an American media company, censors things for the sake of a Chinese audience. One of my favorite documentaries of last year was Feels Good Man, was the Pepe documentary. It was about Pepe the Frog.
I saw,
And because it
I
was
saw trailers for
independently
it.
released, oh, it was really good. I did a couple interviews with the filmmakers. They're great guys. The biggest reason why they were not on streaming platforms, they easily could have gotten on Netflix or like HBO Max or like Amazon or one of these things, but they wound up selling independently because they had one scene near the end where they acknowledged that there were protesters in Hong Kong that were using Pepe as a symbol of protest.
Oh my god.
And that was the biggest reason why like streaming platforms didn't want to touch them. They were like, nope, sorry. Like, come on. Isn't that shit?
That's
That's
insane.
so bad. It was a really good movie too.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard good things about it. I never got around to it.
Yeah, buy it on iTunes.
I might just do that. I've been so behind on like pretty much like all media that isn't video games because I do like a video game oriented podcast. It's the only thing that I'm like incentivized to stay up to date in. And like
Is that what Snark Cast? What is it called?
Snark
Snark
Tank.
Tank? Snark Tank.
No, well,
Thank you.
we
Is
that's
that what it's about? Just
that's-
video games?
It's more loose, just kind of conversational. It's more of a when I was younger and I was starting to get into podcasts, I really enjoyed the Rooster Teeth podcast with like Bernie and those guys, because it felt like kind of listening in to a bunch of friends just kind of chatting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I'm trying
OG
to do that kind of thing, but I don't know if it's what it is now.
But you don't have real friends.
Yeah, all my
so
friends
you
are
can't
fake.
pretend. Yeah.
But no, I do, and I do another one with Colin, a friend of mine, a PlayStation centered one, where we just sort of like go into the news of like studio acquisitions and like it's kind of fun.
Really themed podcast.
Yeah. But I just haven't been paying attention to fucking movies, which like the last movie I saw was The Kid Detective.
Oh, that's fine. I'm glad you saw that because I didn't. I thought it was decent. It wasn't like a. Oh, hello.
It's Adam, YMS.
Really?
Yeah, we're just chatting.
Is that Sweeney?
That's
Hello.
nuts.
Yeah. You guys can't hear each other though, I don't think.
It's a lot of nuts. I hear him.
Oh, he
doesn't
can
hear
hear
me, I
you. You
guess.
can't hear him.
I'm a huge fan, dude. What's up?
Yo,
He
we're
says,
talking
"Yo."
about how Chris doesn't have any real friends.
What is this? Like,
I'll be really. I can't manage this exact. This is a very socially confusing.
You know what?
situation.
I'm gonna pee right now, so talk with Sweeney, and I'll take a pee break. I'll be right back.
All right. It's a very weird situation when there's two people in a conversation and only one of them can hear the other. It's a very I froze just there. I was like, how do you navigate this? And now both of them left to accommodate my incapacity for basic human communication.
I'm back.
Hey. Yeah, that was like, I'm so bad. Like, that was a situation. I don't do live stuff, so I never do it. So that was a situation that I'm like, I've never been faced with this exact situation before. How do you do this?
Don't know what to do.
Yeah, that was a
Shut it
whole-
down.
I buffered like for a whole 10 seconds there. But
This is exactly what I wanted to be doing tonight.
yeah,
Was hop on somebody else's stream and just chat.
it's fun. It's very low pressure when you get to just kind of
Yeah, it's not my stream. Fuck this shit.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I can say the N word. You'll get banned.
Oh my god. As long as I think if I'm in a hot tub, I can get away with it.
Oh yeah.
I thought about that. Like, I thought about I don't have a hot tub per se, but I do have a bathtub that I can fill with hot
Oh,
water.
you can do it.
I can?
Yes.
Is that like a thing?
I mean, now
that-
they have a category, right? So
they do have a category, but like I wonder if they're like specific with like the fact that it needs to be a proper hot tub.
it said hot tubs, pools, and beaches. I think is the official
Yeah.
category. So I was that if it would be weird if you weren't allowed to do a bathtub.
Yeah.
If they banned you for that, you would get famous, and it would be worth it.
It probably would be.
It would be front page of Reddit.
Yeah,
They
I might.
banned a male streamer.
I'll hang a green screen up in there and put beach backgrounds. Maybe that'll help sell the vibe.
It's funny how they just finally kind of acknowledged it, though.
Yeah,
They're like,
it was kind of.
Yeah, we'll make a category.
We'll figure it out. This whole thing is like really strange. Like, it just sort of came out of nowhere. Because I've never seen this, but like I've never seen like in the years of doing Twitch. Maybe I'm sure it probably existed in like niche areas, maybe. But
Well, all it takes is one girl who knows she has so much power and won't get banned
yeah,
to push the envelope so far that Twitch either has to ban them or not ban them and pretend like everyone can do it. And that's what happened.
yeah, that is I think accurate.
Not naming names.
Yeah, I think I don't know, that whole thing is weird. I'm not like really bothered by it. I'm just more confused. Like I'm just like how like what exactly I think it bothers me just from like a base, consistency standpoint where I'm just like
Oh yeah, it's just consistency. I don't
Yeah.
care. Fucking show pussy on Twitch. Just let me show my dick. I don't care.
Exactly.
Let me pull my dick out, and we'll be fine. It'll be even.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
that's what we need.
I think society would be better if people didn't give a shit about sex parts.
I agree too. I think that's probably there's a lot to say about the potential social ramifications of a thing like OnlyFans, but one thing that I think, or that I hope comes out of it, is that people stop being prudish about this shit, because I feel like it's getting to be like more of a normal thing to just be like, oh yeah, naked person, whatever.
Yeah, but OnlyFans is just for whores, though, so... You know what? Here's a spicy take. If everybody was filmed 24/7, even in their fucking bathrooms, and everybody's naked parts were, like, broadcast to the government or the whole world or whatever, sure, Orwellian, I agree. But no one would give a shit anymore, because, like, you wouldn't be able to make fun of somebody for having a micro penis, because, like, 10% of people would have a micro penis, right? You wouldn't be able to make
10%?
fun of somebody for just, like, I don't know. What is the... I don't know.
Can't be it can't be 10%.
1%. There would be enough people. I don't care. It
That's
doesn't matter
fair.
the number. There would be enough people, like...
A
whether
lot
or
of
not it's a
people.
like,
A
ignore
lot
the
of
micro-penis
people
part,
in number.
right?
Yeah.
If you're naked at all, that is a point of ridicule somehow in society. Like, you have parts underneath your clothes. You're canceled. Like,
yeah.
You can send that to people's employers, right? Like, you can legitimately get people fired from their jobs. You can have, like, if let's say I posted a picture of my butthole tomorrow, people would just respond to my tweets with that, when there's literally nothing wrong with that, right? Like, yo, everybody's got a butthole. I don't know if you heard, but you got a butthole. I don't know what planet you're living on. You got a butthole.
That is
okay?
true.
It's not a secret. So,
A secret butthole.
yeah,
The
Johnny
premise.
Depp, the secret butthole.
I don't know, man. Like, it's... I do think, like, the thing... Because do you think that's going to happen going forward, though? Like, with OnlyFans being as big as it is...
Give it 100 years. Give it 100 years, people will calm down about fucking sex. It's not going to happen in our lifetime.
You don't think so?
We might see, like, the beginnings of that. Well, yeah, because, like, think about, like, in the 1950s, you weren't allowed to show on television, like, fucking Fred Flintstone and his wife in the same, like, literally in a bedroom together, just standing in the bedroom. Like, you weren't allowed to show that. That was considered too sexual. Like, in Arab cultures, it's like, oh, showing your ankle is too sexual. Like, it's all completely fucking subjective. We're just repressed, crazy fucking monkey creatures on this gigantic space rock that are just floating around. And, like, we've got so many of these, like, powerful emotions surrounded around the idea of sex that we project these into, like, such repressive ways that are so damaging, and people are so fucking stupid about it. Everybody's got caveman brain.
I don't disagree.
So, yeah, eventually it'll happen.
I don't disagree with that, but I do think it's a lot sooner than... I do think the internet...
Oh, you think it's sooner? You're more...
I think it's sooner
hopefully.
only
Okay.
because I feel like the internet inherently just sort of speeds this shit up. I feel like things have accelerated a lot faster because of the
kids
internet.
raised on the internet. Jesus, people are concerned about shit at Pride. Like, like your kid has access to the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think. I don't know what you think they're looking up.
Your kid has probably
age of
seen
12.
Goatsy already. You know, like
Yeah.
You're nothing they're going to see.
Whether or not they wanted to look that up, there's someone in their class that has sent it to them.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think because that's a huge factor in the way that like everybody is brought up now, like whether they even want to be or not, I feel like that is going to lead to some acceleration of what is okay and what isn't. But really, that's what I would hope for, or based on. It seems like it would make sense that would be the case. I could be wrong, but
I mean, people are filled with all sorts of contradictory delusions, so you never know.
yeah, that's true.
Like, there's a bunch of people arguing against gay rights that are also gay, and they're just hiding it because they hate
Right.
themselves.
That is
so,
true. But that's like, you know, to throw the scent off. It's not because it's like a principled position. It's literally just...
But that scent throwing the scent off exists because there's a societal expectation that they shouldn't be that way. And as long as there is that societal expectation, then that, like, this is human beings and sexuality is determined by what is taboo, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, you're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong.
yeah, it's just whatever society decides. What's the percentage of caveman brain people at any given moment, and you'll determine how repressed people are about sexuality based on that number.
To be honest, I don't think just because kids have access to fuck shit doesn't mean we should promote kids around or promote putting kids around more fuck shit. I don't know if it's that.
Oh, of course.
Like, yeah, I think that's obvious. Like, you wouldn't be like,
yeah,
oh, okay, since you can look up porn, let me just bring my son to a live porn shoot. Like, you obviously.
Oh,
not...
yeah. So, are you kind of conflating that with the pride debate? I kind of ranted about this earlier on my own stream, but I don't really know what your position is. So.
I don't really care. I
yeah,
personally,
that's
I think
my
it's,
main thing too.
I
don't
think
care,
it's.
But
I have. Yeah, like I don't know enough about this shit anyway. Like I usually stay away from conversations about this in general, just because I don't really think I have anything really of value to add because I don't care enough. But people were asking me about it, and the way that it was being framed was just like dogs in like gimp suits, like kind of like flailing their genitals at kids, which is like obviously
it's really exaggerated.
Yeah, obviously
like,
that
that's not
specific
happening at every
thing.
Pride event, and like
yeah.
I don't know, like yeah, if there's a float of people going by at like a Pride thing, and they're wearing what are essentially swimsuits, except instead of whatever material swimsuits are made of, they're leather, and the implication is because it's leather, it's a fetish thing. I don't really care. I really don't care. There's no kids that are there without a parent, in the same way that, like, kids who could... Like, there's no kid watching an R-rated movie without a parent. The parent brought them there. It's their decision. I don't care. Just don't sexualize the children. That's my rule. Don't sexualize the children.
Yeah. Which is
if you don't sexualize the children, it should be fine. Don't interact with the children doing sexual things.
I agree.
If you're on a float in a thong, whatever. I don't care. Like, are we to outlaw nudist families that want to raise their children as being nudists? I don't know, because that would be the same argument.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think my only position on it, which is a pretty like, which again is like not even really about it so much as it is about like a very hyper specific example of what people are talking about. Like, I think it's a little weird to want to dress in a leather thong and then to want to approach children in public. I think that's bizarre.
Did that happen?
But that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like that's a very
specific
thing.
One photo of like 3 dudes in pup gear and one little girl who decided to pet them. There is zero context for that photo.
Right. No, exactly.
My assumption, being charitable, is that 3 dudes were like in pup gear on all fours doing their thing, whatever. They were pretending to be puppies. Was it sexual? I don't know them. I have no idea. Right? They could just be role-playing. I assume that it's sexual at some point in their life. I don't necessarily know whether or not it was sexual at that moment. But they were doing it there at Pride. They were doing their own thing. Was that girl related to a mother that knew them? Were they friends? I don't know. Was that girl... was she the daughter of a mother that knew that was pup gear and was just there? Was the girl there by herself? I don't think so. I should hope not.
Right.
She's got bigger problems if she doesn't have a parent there, right? So I don't know. Like it's
buggy.
It's a nuanced conversation that I will not have on Twitter because that is not the space for a nuanced conversation.
Definitely not. Yeah, but that was like,
No.
and even that conversation was just like. That's such a specific example that doesn't really have anything to do with the great. Like, yeah, I guess in this situation, I would think it's a little weird. I wouldn't care to go.
I would not do that.
I wouldn't care. Yeah, I wouldn't care to go on a crusade about it. But I wouldn't put myself in that situation, really. But at the same time, it's like I don't know.
It seems like kind of a non-issue.
Exactly.
Like unless we're hearing like of some sort of epidemic.
I was about to say the same
who had
thing.
grown up, and like 10 years later, they're like. I touched a puppy dog at Pride, but it wasn't a real dog, and I didn't know at the time.
Yeah, that's
right. Unless there's some sort of like actual issue instead of just one photo being circulated on Twitter, then it's like, does anybody really need to be arguing about this right now? Like, I don't know. Is this a real issue?
Yeah, I don't think so. My stance. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Buggy. So My stance is just about consent. Kids can't consent, so they should be kept out of situations where they could be in non-consensual situations. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just don't think this is necessarily a consensual situation. I don't think this is a sensual situation
Like, yeah,
inherently.
take him to Disney World. Is the person in the Goofy costume having a boner? You don't know, right?
Also, also
what's the
just
difference?
like
I
there
really
are.
don't like.
Also, there are the thing that I keep relating to it, because I keep thinking about in the context of like the beach, where like you know women are basically like I've always been baffled by women who are like, oh, you know, I'm uncomfortable being seen in underwear, but I'm fine in a bikini, when it's like essentially the fucking same thing. Like it's always
Yeah,
kind of
it's the societal
Yeah.
expectation. Yeah, change it to leather. All of a sudden, it's kink shit.
yeah,
Right?
it's
Same amount of skin being shown, but it's like a different fabric.
yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's an inherently dangerous situation for like a kid to just be walking around at Pride. I just don't believe
Yeah.
that. I wouldn't necessarily have my kid if it was my kid going up to pet like a half-naked guy in like a leather thong. I probably wouldn't let that happen personally.
Exactly. You shouldn't.
But I don't
that.
care enough. You know.
Yeah, it's I agree with the general consensus in chat that it should be about consent. You shouldn't consent to something that you're like you shouldn't be doing something that you're not consenting to, right? Obviously.
But I'll tell you, I grew up in New York. You can wear being topless in New York is legal. I've seen topless
As a woman?
women. Yeah, I've seen topless women.
In Toronto, I believe it's legal too. In Ontario,
I saw topless women walking around the streets of Manhattan as a kid, and I didn't really, you know, I wasn't sent into a spiral of depravity over it. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like the context of whether or not a certain act is being sexual at the time, right? So since that's subjective, as I would like to bring back, like, okay, is a family allowed to be nudist and raise their children as a nudist, right? Like, okay, the average person would say that being naked is like there's a sexual connotation in the same way that like wearing pup gear has a sexual connotation. And yet I don't see a lot of people saying you can never be naked around your children, right? Like that, I would assume that the parents of the children at Pride, like if there's a child at Pride, their parents are also there. They can take them out of a situation or put them into a situation. Obviously, the children should never be sexualized under any circumstance, right? No one would ever, unless they're a pedophile, no one would ever argue that children should be sexualized, right?
Yeah.
But it's just an argument over whether or not adults should be able to do kink things regardless of whether or not children happen to be there, and also the conversation of what constitutes as something that is a kink thing. Because I would argue, as somebody in the furry community, that there are furries that exist that are a part of the pup play community that might show up to Pride in pup gear, not because they're looking to be exhibitionists and have a boner while they're at Pride, but because it's a much easier to put on version of a fursuit, and they just want to show off being a dog, and it's like just more of an identity thing than a sexual thing. And they're like, oh wow, I'm a fucking dog right now. And it's like they're not like fucking jerking themselves off while they're doing it. Like whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't.
Whatever. They're just wearing leather shit. I don't care.
I think it is kink.
Yeah.
I guess
Sure.
you would have more insight into this because you're actually in the community.
I don't wear leather shit. but,
Right.
yeah.
I just.
I mean, I have to.
It's hard for me to imagine.
I have to acknowledge the nuance, is what I'm saying.
Right. It's hard for me to imagine a scenario that isn't kink oriented, where you're wearing like a leather thong. You know what I mean? It's difficult for me to grasp.
I mean, the association.
It's difficult
is
for me
there,
to
sure.
grasp a non-sexual context to wearing like a leather thong, but that just might be me.
Yeah,
I really
like,
don't
I don't
know.
know, because like, okay, here's another perspective to have. Is like the entire idea of like Pride as like a whole thing exists out of like a necessity for people who have felt so ostracized from society, who have literally attempted suicide or thought about suicide or like felt like they are close to that because of how society has treated them. Like, I'm a person that's like 30 years old right now. I've been physically assaulted at like 2 different parties because of my sexuality, living in Canada, right? Like my parents didn't accept me when I came out. I didn't even come out to my parents. They found out about me without me coming out to them, and then were angry at me and punished me for like obviously these issues still exist.
Right.
Like I'm fairly young living in Canada and that happened to me, right? So like pride as a thing that's been happening for all these fucking years, like whether or not you want to admit it, being gay is a part of your sexuality, right? Like that's a thing.
Right.
Like what is pride? Like sexuality, like obviously there's going to be sexuality being displayed at pride parades, right? Like sure, some kids can be gay, they're learning about their sexuality, but like I'm just trying to put myself in the perspective of like, okay, there's somebody out there, a lot of people, a good amount of people who are into some like weird fetish shit that happened to be gay, and like their entire lives they were told by other people around them that they are wrong for being who they are because of their sexual interest. They are wrong purely out of like their sexual desires. And to just imagine like how liberating it is for that person to just be like, you know what? Sex isn't a fucking big deal at all. And I'm just gonna like go on this fucking float, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna be proud of my sexuality. And what is the extension of sexuality? It's like, I don't know, you could be wearing a fucking bikini, a thong or whatever. Like, I don't care.
I agree.
Like,
I think
you're not jerking somebody else off on the float. Like, obviously that's crossing the line. You're not committing public sex acts by just wearing kink clothing, in my opinion.
From the perspective of sexuality not really being a huge deal, I agree. I think that's
be.
that I understand what you're saying.
Like it just imagine the liberation for people, really. Imagine like feeling this, like watching a movie, like you probably haven't seen this film, like Xavier Dolan's Mommy. Like the entire thing is shot in like 1:1 aspect ratio. The entire movie, you're watching something where it's like you feel like you're trapped in a fucking box, and then like halfway through the movie, the aspect ratio shifts and the box turns into a widescreen. Like that's what it's like for these people that like have lived their entire lives just being like, I fucking hate myself. I fucking hate myself. Every single night they go to bed thinking about that, like, fucking hate myself. And then maybe they move to a new city that actually has people in it, and it's not a small town filled with like their relatives that hate them for existing, and you know they come across the pride parade, and I don't know, like that's the kind of like mentality of the pride parade existing, in my opinion, is like liberation of freeing yourself from this idea that you should be judged for your sexuality.
Imagine seeing a guy in a gimp suit doing pony play, dragging a carriage, and a kid sees that. That'd be wild. Listen, man. I'll say
I
grew up.
Think that
hold on,
happens at pride parades.
Well, hold on. Yeah, I don't think so.
Just wearing a pup mask is a bit different than the whole fucking carriage thing, right?
But also, hold on.
Anyway.
I will challenge that only. Listen, you're speaking to a New Yorker here. I've seen far more insane things.
That's just a Wednesday.
I've seen shit that like you guys wouldn't fucking believe. I remember this like it was yesterday because it wasn't even offensive or like confused. I remember waking up at 3 a.m. one day, looking out the window and seeing a man in a waffle costume on stilts talking to like some like really tall lanky man in stilettos. And I just that was not even weird enough for me to not go right back to sleep. You know, like it's
that's great.
It's a very, I don't know, it's perspective, I guess, and like where you are. Like obviously this is probably gonna shock, you know, somebody living in small town Ohio, you know.
Oh my god.
But I don't know.
Have you seen the show How To with John Wilson?
No.
It's like the perfect weird New York show. It's on HBO right now. It's 6 episodes. It just got renewed for another season. It's great.
What's it called?
It's produced by Nathan Fielder of Nathan For You. If you yeah.
Oh wait, hold on.
It's called How To with John Wilson. Please look that up.
How
it's
To
great.
with John Wilson.
And yeah, for the sake of clarifying my position to the people in chat that are saying you still shouldn't do sexual things around children. Wow, it turns out that my position doesn't contradict that at all.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, you can be at an event that theoretically is for adults that children would only show up to if their parents brought them there because it, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like.
Yeah, no, I agree
I'm
with
not,
you. Like, if a
I'm
parent's
not
gonna
arguing
bring...
that people should be doing kink shit at children's events or just at any random day on the street somewhere, like, just like Pride as something it was brought out of, like, its origins are in defying cultural norms about sexuality. Like, that's the whole reason why Pride exists, is like saying, hey, you know what? I might take it up the butt, but fuck you. Like, right? I can exist here too. Girls take it up the butt too. Fuck you. Everybody has an asshole, right? Like, that's why Pride exists. Is like, maybe I'm going to hell if I were to agree with your idea of heaven and hell. Maybe I'm going to hell, but like, maybe we can exist on this planet together. Maybe I'm, like, I don't know.
I think you're right too, Lord Hippo. I don't think kids are gonna remember like half the shit they see at these parades. It's probably like so fucking overwhelming.
Especially if you don't draw attention to it as an adult, right? It's like, if a kid falls down and like scrapes their knee, they're gonna react a lot more if you go, "Oh, are you okay?" and you like coddle them. They're gonna start crying. But if you're like, "Oh, oops," then they'll just like walk it off.
Yeah, like I really,
right?
It's hard because I just really like, people were asking me questions about it earlier, and I'm just like, I struggle to care enough to form like any kind of opinion about it. It's just like, let.
Ideally, the kids just wouldn't be there to begin with. Is my
ideally,
position.
but like it's a it's a public parade. You can't keep kids
Otherwise,
out of,
it's up to the parents.
like, I mean, there are fucking strip clubs in LA that, like, there are naked people all over the place, and they're like,
yeah,
I've seen kids
like
walk by them
things,
and
or what?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of
also like,
it's kind of hard to hide sometimes at a certain point. But
my question to a lot of these people that have a very hard stance against this, and when I say against this, it's not against children being exposed to sexual imagery, but like just sexual imagery existing in public where children potentially could be exposed to it. Maybe
like giant
right?
Victoria's Secret
my question would be,
billboards?
Yeah, like you're allowed to say the word fuck in public, right? You're allowed to preach religious shit in public. I would argue religion is much more harmful for children than seeing like a
I would
thong.
100%.
If you're literally allowed to go on the streets and say you're going to hell if you're gay, that's much more harmful for a child than some dude wearing a fucking doggy mask that happens to be made out of leather. That's infinitely more harmful to a child's psyche growing up and developing.
I would agree.
Right?
I would agree.
Literally. Unironically.
No. That's not. You don't even have to preface it with unironically.
If they're allowed to do that, then yeah, like, get rid of that first, then we'll have the conversation about whether or not Pride is okay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't think you should get rid of that. I think it's annoying,
Exactly.
but
yeah, freedom of speech,
Yeah, exactly.
freedom of expression, sexuality is expression, it's speech. It's literally just an article of clothing. You're not fucking someone in front of the child. You're not fucking the child. So just keep the children away if possible, please. If you're a parent bringing your child to Pride events, maybe don't, or maybe just give them some sort of information that would not warp their minds as they grow up.
I
don't
don't
know.
actually care.
What's
if
the worst
people...
that could happen? I don't know.
Wait, I don't actually care if people bring their kids or not. I care about people who are uncomfortable with displays of kink and should be welcome there. Am I wrong? But I feel like there are different.
Why don't you just like
verticals of
every
this
other
thing.
day of the year is good for you? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I think the argument that I've seen more often about this, and keep in mind I'm going from memory because I barely paid attention to this, but the argument that I saw was there are people who are uncomfortable with this that are gay, that should feel welcome, that are put off from the only time, or that are put off from attending the only event that is for them because of it. But I don't know if
Pride's like a whole fucking month.
That's exactly,
like,
yeah. Also, I don't know if I care.
There's so many things. If
But
you're
honestly.
choosing the events that have sexual things in them, maybe choose a different event. Maybe go to a different bar. Maybe go to the family-friendly sports bar. Go to a different city. I don't know. Just move.
Asexual
That's the
people?
meme, right?
I mean, I don't even know what to say to that.
I'm a sexual person.
Are you?
I'm a sexual person, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not asexual. I'm
No, of course
a
not.
sexual person.
I think
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I wouldn't even know what to say to that because that is that's an area that I'm just very. This is not my area of even remote expertise, guys. It's just like completely alien.
I don't know. Like you're gonna offend and exclude people no matter what. Like, dude. Like I don't know. Depending on the city, there are like gay furries that want to show up in the Pride Parade, but then regular gay people are like, ew, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know. Can't have everything.
I just say have a good
Generally,
party.
in
Have a good
Pride
party.
should be accepting. You know, like asexuals. I don't think are excluded from attending Pride or having a float in the Pride or waving their flag at the Pride if they are wanting to not ever see anything. Like, here's the thing: are asexual people just not interested in sex, or are they scared of sex? Because those are two different fucking things. I think most prudish things about sexuality are coming from conservative Christians who are just as horny as everybody else, but pretend to the world that they're not.
Yeah.
I think normal asexual people are comfortable seeing people in thongs.
Yeah,
So,
that is a good point.
I don't know who you were in chat saying, what about asexuals? But I have a funny feeling that you're not an asexual if you're asking that question.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think. Surely
I know
somebody
a few
who is.
asexuals.
Yeah, I know one, but like, I don't think they would be too put off by the existence of like sexual themes at Pride. They're not even put off by like sexual themes anywhere else. So like, I don't know why they would be at a Pride parade.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
What is the asexual flag? What is that?
Energy signature. That's
I don't know, fucking swastika or some shit. I don't remember. The Hitler thing.
Yeah, the most. They are the most concerning bunch. Keep an eye on them.
I don't remember. Yeah, but I don't know. There's tons of asexual furries.
That's fascinating.
A bunch. I
I'm
know,
just
right?
so-
It's almost
yeah.
as if being a furry has more to do with like identity and interest than your sexuality, or they overlap, or that there's a spectrum of sorts, and that it isn't necessarily just one way for every single person, and that different human beings have different human brains. Wow, crazy.
That is pretty crazy. I thought we all had the same one.
Isn't that the weirdest thing?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a phase, Mo. I only think I think I'm the only ace person here, so I'll say that seeing people in thongs is fine, but being around a bunch of horny quasi orgy stuff is pretty iffy. I don't know, man.
Exactly. Exactly. No one's arguing for like a gangbang on the Pride float.
Yeah.
The argument is over like whether or not somebody should have a dog mask that happens to be made out of leather instead of a regular fursuit head. Right? That's the conversation, isn't it? If not, I might be mistaken. But I believe that that's the conversation.
I wish I understood. I wish I knew what the conversation was.
It's really difficult
because
to
it
even
seems-
understand where people believe the conversation is taking place is part of the problem.
Yeah, because
It's like,
it's all about like whether or not you well, first of all, it's all about whether what you perceive to be sexual and whether or not that's a problem.
and
Which,
how much
which
of
is
a problem you
consistently
believe
shifting.
it is.
Yeah, like I don't think it's really a problem at all. I'll say again, I'm ace. It's just lacking interest in it. Oh, okay. So it's just a lack of interest in sex.
Exactly. That's
That sounds amazing. By the way.
asexuality is not anti-sexuality. It's, like, I do not participate. Atheist is not I hate God. It's I don't participate in the belief of a God, right?
Yeah.
It's not ew.
Can I ask?
I don't like this man who's a
the-
god.
The to any asexual people in the chat, I'd like permission to ask a question. If you guys will give me that.
But you already did.
I want to know if at this point, having lived this long as an asexual, can you fly? Like, can you levitate? Like, can you do all of the things
That's
I wish
an
I could do?
aerosexual.
An air- Because my friends and I joke about that all the time. It's like, dude, if I just didn't want to do this, I would be so productive.
Oh, because you waste 90% of your time just fapping.
Or just even just thinking about it and getting distracted. Like it's a nuisance. You know? I'd be like, oh man, that sounds wonderful. To not have this this fucking annoying thing in your head.
Yeah, there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure what I said right now is probably hyper offensive, but whatever.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I don't got time.
Yeah, there's I know a few asexual people. And the biggest reason why I don't fully understand every asexual person is because I don't grill them about it, and I kind of just think, okay, I'm not going to ask you about it, and I accept what you say, sort of thing, because it's not for me to, you know. Sure, you can have, you know, questions about it in your own head, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
If someone's
uncomfortable to ask
self-identifying as something, then it's like, is there really like, what do you have to compare it to? Are you just going to take one asexual person who said it's this and then go to the next and be like,
yeah, at a certain
like,
point, it's just all.
Yeah.
It's a fruitless endeavor.
Yeah.
At that point,
like there's, I don't know. Maybe for some asexual people, it means they have zero sex drive. Maybe for other asexual people, it means like they're just not attracted to people, but like they jerk off to like furry porn, and that's fine. But they're not attracted to like people. Like I don't know.
Asexuality in of itself is a spectrum, and it's like it's so
it's self-identifying.
Yeah.
So you can't really pinpoint it down to one thing.
Yeah, I don't
which
know.
is, I guess you could say, for everything.
Jesus Christ, how many? I gotta do more Void. God damn it, man! I haven't gotten any progress on this one. But fucking.
I never
whatever.
played Destiny.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're necessarily missing out on much. I
don't think I am.
It grabs me in a very specific way that I don't think I can really justify to anybody else. It's just more like this feels good to play.
Bungie made it.
It just feels good, like the heritage of because I play a lot of FPSs because it's just generally like my favorite kind of game to play. Like as far as like game to like moment to moment like gameplay and interactivity and shit. And this feels the way that I want most FPSs to feel. So that's mostly why I play it. Yeah, we are. So. And a lot of that heritage is there. Like you can fire from like the hip, and you don't have to aim down sights with every weapon. And like there's a lot of physics in it, and the jumps are floaty, and it's like, oh, this is kind of nice. Especially when you compare it to like Modern Warfare, where all your bullets feel like they just go right through everything, and everything feels like
and you suck your thumb in the corner, waiting for your health to go back up.
Yeah, the whole camping thing is like, I couldn't believe that was such a common thing in other FPSs because it was so uncommon.
Yeah. It's crazy, these shitty aspects of FPSs that must have been so successful because everybody decided to do them, and then 343 decided, let's make Halo like Call of Duty.
It's insane. I fucking couldn't... Man, you're gonna send me off on a...
Oh, please.
A spiraling.
I'm sure we both have a lot to say about that.
I just couldn't believe that they dropped the ball so fucking hard so quick. Like, it seemed like they had an easy job. Honestly.
Where was your point of no return?
My point of no return?
Yeah.
I don't think I have a point of no return because, unfortunately... Well, they put the collection out. Right? So, what do you mean? You mean the point of no return as far as, like, the mistakes they made?
Expectations.
Oh, expectations went out the window with Halo 5. That was the one that really
That was the first Halo game I never finished, and I bailed, I think, at the beginning of the second level. I don't know if I finished the first level or not. I was like, this is awful, and I never... it was the quickest I noped out of any game ever, and I love Halo.
It's really sad. It's all the more complicated, though, because, I remember playing it and thinking like, wow, this is a really good sci-fi first-person shooter. But this is not...
Oh, yeah?
Like, I remember playing it and thinking, like, wow, if this was Crysis, I would be having a great time. But this is not... Like, I don't mind games that do things differently. You know? Like, I don't mind playing a game like Battlefield, which is, like, not Halo at all. Because Battlefield is selling you on its own experience. And Doom is selling you on its own experience. And Halo has a heritage of selling you on the Halo experience. So when I play a game like Halo 5 and I'm looking at all these like mechanics that are kind of cool and kind of well implemented and play well, I'm thinking, wow, this is good, but this shouldn't be a Halo game. This should be like literally anything else. This should be like a Titanfall game, which is also a great FPS.
Yeah,
but like,
I feel like even as one of those other games, it's still just, it doesn't justify its own existence. There's nothing about it that's fun, unfortunately.
yeah, I would agree.
Like,
I
they
think,
forgot to put the fun in the game. Like, oh, oops.
yeah,
Uh-oh.
it's a real fucking shame because like Halo 4, I actually hated more. Believe it or not, I hated 4 more because only because 5 to me again felt like a really competent first-person shooter that just wasn't Halo to me. But Halo 4 just didn't play well at all. Like even from like any perspective about it, especially multiplayer wise, where it was just like, hey, here's sprint.
Yeah, 5 multiplayer was better than 4 multiplayer for sure.
Well, it was more
I
competent.
focused mostly on the campaign. but
Right. As
in terms of
campaign.
whether or not I like the game.
Campaign Halo 5 was way worse. Like no doubt about it.
Yeah.
As a complete package, I think 4 is worse, but that campaign in 5 is so unacceptably bad that it's pointless.
Yeah. Like, why?
It was
what
so
sort
stupid.
of boardroom meeting happened, and what kind of imbeciles thought that any of that was okay from from concept? Like, what the fuck? Like, obviously, the concept was brought out of like Microsoft wanting to sell more consoles and them saying like, you know what? We're going to prioritize 60 FPS, so you can't do dual screen on one console anymore because it's so important that we have 60. This is going to be the first Halo game where you can't do co-op on one console. You're going to need 2 Microsoft wants us to sell 2 Xboxes per co-op campaign.
Yeah.
And so they did that. And they designed the entire game around like, oh, there's 4 characters or something.
Yeah.
And
It was
Master
a
Chief
squad
doesn't
based.
matter anymore. The character that you all love doesn't matter.
They made all the
okay.
wrong decisions. Like, even from a gameplay perspective. First of all, I don't know. Everybody has their own idea of what Halo means. Like, especially like even from like a single player perspective, which is a lot more. Multiplayer is a lot more varied in what people like and what they don't because every game is a lot more different. But I think a lot of people have different ideas of what a Halo campaign means. But I know for me, I don't want a squad of people who are exactly the same as me, who have stupid AI, who are useful or useless. Like, like the whole point is like I should feel like I am the most important thing on the battlefield, and I'm helping Marines. Like
they pulled a Dead Space 3. They designed the campaign around the idea that co-op was a necessity. They're like, oh, the true experience is co-op, and you need another console for co-op. And with Dead Space 3 was like, you need an EA pass on another console, like the whole $10 pass bullshit they were trying to do at the time. Literally, that's like top down. Microsoft said, yeah, you want 4 people per game being sold. Like, you want all these people buying this. Like, you can't just have it on one game, one console. Like, that was the entire framework of the game, and they built it around that, and it's like, oh, no wonder it was shit.
It's so stupid. And even just like littler decisions, like, oh, let's make, that character that people liked from that ODST game, let's make him a Spartan now. And it's like, what? Why?
I didn't get that. I didn't get that far. I didn't even know.
Yeah, Buck, they made Nathan Fillion a Spartan, and it's like, why are you doing that?
Hilarious.
Why does everybody
That's
just
so
get
funny.
to be a fucking Spartan now? It's like it reminds me
Leave
of
no stone unturned.
dude. It reminds me of fucking Super Saiyan. Like everybody
yeah.
starts becoming like the kids are Super Saiyan at like
That's
fucking
hilarious.
level at age 6.
Krillin.
Yeah, Krillin becomes a Super Saiyan because fuck it, why not? It's so frustrating because like I would have loved a continuation of that story somewhere down the line where they're all normal people again. Like I enjoyed that. I thought that was kind of like a nice change of pace, and I thought it was interesting. But instead, it's like, nah, he's got to be a big boy now, and everybody gets to be a big boy. But don't worry, your main big boy is still the cool big boy, but not really, because he's
But
old
he doesn't
news.
matter.
Yeah, he
at
doesn't
all.
matter. It's so man, just
And
the,
you don't really play as him for most of the game.
the flagrant disregard for what the game is supposed to be.
How do you not understand what fans of your franchise want to see?
Like
Right? How do you not understand what they want to experience? Like, that should be objective one. What do the people who are buying our game want?
yeah.
That should be your first objective.
And they relied so heavily on fucking the books. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, with 4, I remember, like, when they introduced the Didact or whatever, I was like, who is... Why? Why are you doing this? This is so
It's
weird.
so their bodies can disintegrate, so you don't have to have the assets of the game showing dead bodies on the ground. They disintegrate into thin air, so you just get to delete them.
Yeah.
And so the game runs better without doing any real effort.
Except in the multiplayer that backfired because that means weapons despawn like pretty much immediately when you
God.
die. Like I remember like in Halo
Oh, that's
4 it
funny.
was frustrating when like I would be killed with a sniper rifle or something and I would run back and it would be gone because not because somebody else took it, but because it was literally just there wasn't enough memory
Disintegrated.
in the game. So
That sucks.
I don't know,
It's so
man.
weird what their priorities are. It's like, oh wow, everything looks like shiny Roblox plastic. Like Roblox plastic.
The art was the most offensive thing to me, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
it looks like shit.
I hated the way Halo 4 played. I hated the narrative decisions they made. I hated the decisions they made with Halo 5. But at the very fucking least, at least just make it look like the thing that I love. That's all the bare minimum. You should you gave yourself more work to do by redesigning everything from scratch, which is something that no one asked you to do. Imagine if Star Wars just looked like Battlestar Galactica one day. Like, everybody would be like, what the fuck? No. Star Wars has, like, such a specific aesthetic, which is arguably, like, I would argue the only reason that entire franchise persists to this day is because it's striking visual design. And, like, soundscape. That's literally, like, I don't like Star Wars that much at all. And I really think the entire strength of that series lies in its just art direction and its soundscape and just, like, the sound design of it. And they saw Halo, which had a defined style, and were just like, you know what? Let's do our own thing. Let's make it really realistic looking for no reason. And it just looked worse.
They hire people that have resumes that are not necessarily fans of the game or familiar with the game, right? So it's like, I don't like. You're replacing an entire team of people. Like, oh,
wait.
this
Somebody
is
said something.
343 Industries now.
Somebody said something in chat that I have to. That's 100% what happened in the prequels and sequels, though. No, the sequels still look like Star Wars. They're just bad movies, and the prequels look slightly different because they take place a long ass time ago. Things look different
and in front of a green screen.
Yeah, and in front of a green screen. But like the assets are
It's
the
a
same,
computer
and you can
world.
see Here's the thing. Chief goes to sleep in Halo 3. The game ends, he goes in the cryopod.
When you need me.
Wake me when you need me. And then he wakes up in a completely different fucking suit of armor. At the very least, even Halo 2
Good point.
even Halo 2 had the decency to they changed his armor in Halo 2, but even they had the decency to start the game off with him putting the new suit on. At the very least.
Yeah.
You can't just like
And then
shift
when
the
you
way
asked
everything
why
looks.
Sergeant Johnson was still there, he said it's a secret. Okay, they
Yeah.
knew.
I don't know, man. This shit just really bothers me because I really, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't consider myself like a super, like, pompous person. Like, I'm not gonna sit there
Yeah.
and be like, oh, I could do a better job at, like, you know, I could start a better band than, you know, fucking, I don't know, whatever the most popular recent rock band is. I could do this better. I could do that better. I'm not normally that kind of person, but
But if
sincerely,
at least they had feedback
But-
from the community.
right? But I'm just saying, like, I sincerely believe that I, even as like a fucking 17-year-old boy, I sincerely feel like I could have led that team in a way better direction than the direction they had.
Yeah.
I like, genuinely from the bottom of my fucking heart, I believe that.
Yeah.
I just,
Who was in charge?
man, just what a bad.
So sad.
It is sad.
It seems to be such a recurring story, you know? That's why I'm never excited for AAA gaming. And why I'm only excited for independent developers that I know and trust.
Yeah.
You know? And that's also a big reason why I'm loving a lot of Japanese games over American games, is because, like, Japanese games, you know, whether or not you love Kojima, the games are him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I love Suda51. The games are him. When they're named, like, they're individuals who have a lot of backing behind them, but they're creating their product, with some exceptions, you know? Like, Suda51 has had to do his, like, little dips into corporate world where he had to make compromises or whatever. There's not the same voice in American video games in the AAA sense.
Yeah.
Like, Halo is a brand. It's not a person.
No.
Halo isn't a X person's name game. It's
Yeah.
a brand, and then other,
Yeah.
you know, the entire team gets replaced. Mass Effect, BioWare, nobody who's BioWare was working at BioWare when BioWare mattered, right? BioWare is not the same anymore.
No, certainly
They're just
not.
called BioWare, right?
Yeah, I
Whereas
think they're
Jonathan
definitely-
Blow is Jonathan Blow.
Yeah.
Toby Fox is Toby Fox. Indie developers are actually doing shit.
I got a
right?
question for you. How did you feel about Death Stranding if you played it, if you had the time?
It was super fucking pretentious and stupid, and I enjoyed some aspects about it. I could understand how incredibly autistic people would love organizing the weight on your backpack and feeling that it's very calming, tranquil, whatever you want to say. Like, yes, I'm walking towards a dead. I understand that there are some people that just want to kill time that way, and they get it, and it connects with them. And Hideo Kojima is the most autistic person that connects with other autists. I get it.
Yeah,
I'm not that man.
that's fair.
And I thought that the gameplay was incredibly boring, despite, you know, good graphics and some funny moments. But, like, holy fuck, so pretentious. And also, like, aspects of the game were just, like, pointless. Like, the entire idea of, like, boss battles in that game, like,
yeah, I didn't like those very much.
yeah, like, first of all, the bosses that show up, you can literally just run away from them. You can literally just, like, spam the X button and go in a direction, and then they disappear. Like, literally, it doesn't matter if you get pulled under, like, oh no, like, I got pulled into the goop. Then you just run away, and then they go away when you're out of the bounds of the area. And I found that out pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, there's whatever. And then I go back and pick up the stuff that I dropped. And then
Yeah.
the third-person shooter aspect is like, wow, cool, you're doing this artistic thing where it's suddenly turning into a different game. But it's a very, very small amount of the game. And the vast majority of the game is not training you for that, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
If you're thinking about, like, how to create, like, a gameplay experience where the entire, I don't know, last few levels of the game and all these, like, important pivotal moments are just, like, shooter sections, but, like, I thought I was being trained to carry my weight and all these other things. Like, there are mechanics in the game that I was trained for, and they're not utilized in the most important parts of the game.
Yeah.
So, what is this? It just feels like a pretentious mess. This mishmash of nothing, right?
It was definitely it was a pretentious mess. And I
Yeah.
loved it.
Oh, I'm glad you did.
I don't know why either. I really have no explanation.
Yeah.
It worked. It worked for
I'm
me. I did
glad
hate a
you
lot
felt
of
it
it though.
worked.
There's I finished it.
I'm
Like,
Princess Beach.
Yeah, the writing's terrible, and it's very the writing's terrible. It's very pretentious. It's unnecessarily long.
Incredible.
The
I
end
never
of the game.
thought that I would feel that a game like that is pretentious. You know, because
Yeah.
Hideo Kojima has like little moments of self-awareness. He has monster energy and shit. I never
Yeah.
thought that I would go through that game and eventually feel this is the most pretentious shit ever. But it somehow turned out to be.
Yeah, it totally is. The writing's like there's a the ending of that game is fucking annoying because they make you
And
go
long.
Yeah, and long. They make you go back. They literally, I'm not exaggerating. They make you trek across America like 3 times in the end of the game, and it's
Yeah.
like I loved
For
the
no
game.
reason other than they think you enjoy wasting your time.
Yeah, and like I loved the game up until that part. Even with like the annoying like I don't
Yeah.
like the writing really all that much, but it's kind of like I played that game with immense appreciation for the fact that there is no way any other AAA studio could have greenlit this. And the
Because
fact
he
that
has
it exists
name power.
Well, yeah,
He's the Christopher Nolan of gaming.
he is, but I like that a game like that exists with that much money behind it, I guess. It's kind of cool to see that.
I would never want to see it not exist.
Right. But yeah, I would agree with pretty much every one of your criticisms, except I did enjoy it somehow. I ended up
I'm glad you did.
enjoying it quite a bit. But I do think you're right. There's like not a lot of auteurs in video games, which is a shame. I feel like we used to have
Especially
more.
in North America, in AAA. In Japanese video games, they are producing games with budgets under these names, and you get games made by these people that have these names. Suda51, like I'm gonna play No More Heroes 3, and I know I'm gonna get a game where it's like, oh, this is his personality. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
To get that in an American game, you're basically just paying for an indie title. You don't see that in AAA gaming. It's very unfortunate.
It is kind of a shame. The last time that I can really remember, I mean, before Death Stranding, the last time that I can remember something even close to that happening was, or the last thing that I can remember that is, you know, like a big game that happens to be, very clearly like led by like one creative type is the BioShock games with Ken Levine. Ken Levine
Okay.
is the only person that I can think of aside from Kojima in modern and and Ken Levine hasn't done anything in ages, you know. I don't know. It's kind of annoying that we don't have more of that.
Yeah, it's unfortunately just like a product of like the consumer model that America has decided, you know? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
you just replace people within the company, and the company gets absorbed by larger companies. You know, EA just decides to take over Dead Space and then kills the company. They decide to eat up BioWare and do their own thing. It's like, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm not as familiar with that happening in Japan, but like, there's so much. I just feel like there's so much more personality in these larger games in Japan.
Yeah.
And but here's the thing though, is like it's not necessarily a doom and gloom story, because like the highest selling games still, despite AAA being bullshit in America, highest selling games have been like Minecraft and Undertale, you know, like these
that is
individual
yeah.
small developers are still succeeding in the market, even if they're not getting the same mainstream recognition in terms of like advertising and you know, budget, I guess.
That is yeah.
They're still selling, right? Like Toby Fox is a small team doing great shit.
Toby Fox is who? Remind me. Is
Undertale.
He... Oh, Undertale. I know the dude who
he basically made it himself.
I know the dude who made oh my god, guys, Chad, help me out. That fucking farming Stardew Valley.
Oh yeah.
I know that was made by one dude, and that game exploded.
Yeah.
That dude's like rolling in it now.
Yeah. Limbo and Inside made by a very small team of people.
Playdead, yeah.
Yeah.
Those I
Yeah,
love
like-
those. Limbo and Inside are genuinely some of the best. Like those are the games that like
Yeah.
Limbo
Waiting for the
specifically-
next one. Very excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what that team does because they're just everything they've made. And granted, it's not that much, but like they've got a perfect batting average for me. So like I'm on board for whatever the hell they make. But Limbo is the game that I point to people like when they haven't played video games and they're not used to it and they're like, oh, what game? Like, what's a good first game to play? It's usually like that is the first game I tell.
2 buttons.
Yeah, super simple.
Very intuitive.
Very ethereal, very good, like pleasant to look at.
Yeah, artistic.
Yeah, everything about that game is like a perfect first game. Inside's a little bit more complicated, but it's a great one to play after. I even I don't know if you've dabbled into Little Nightmares at all, but I enjoyed that one as well.
I played the first one, and it made me just want to play Limbo again, and so I played the first one, and I played Limbo again, and then I didn't touch the second one. I was like, this. It felt a little too derivative in terms of what it was going for, and I was like, it's not a ripoff, right? Like, I don't think there should be like
more
royalties
like
paid, but it was like it doesn't justify its existence as much. It was like
it's like a 3D Inside to me, which is
but it's like so much less intuitive and so much less atmospheric, and like I get it, like I get the tone, but like fuck, it's just not as good.
Ah man, I really enjoyed it, but I didn't do the second one though. I haven't touched it.
Yeah, I don't think I'll do the second one. I was a little disappointed with the first.
Yeah,
I'm gonna grab one more drink and I'll be right back.
All right, no worries.
You're planning on being up for another at least half an hour, right?
Yeah, probably like another 20 minutes. I'm thinking.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Hell yeah.
Hear me.
How's everybody going, guys? How you doing? You should play it on stream, Little Nightmares 2. I might. That might not be a bad idea. Hollow Knight is too good for how much it's worth. I don't... Oh, man. I'm not super into Hollow Knight. I wish I was. I wish I loved Hollow Knight as much as everybody else does. I don't even think it's like a bad game or anything. But, like... I don't know what the hell. I just don't know what the hell it is about it. I'm... It's too slow for me. I know it picks up. But I just couldn't do it. I'm not super into Metroidvanias, in fairness. Or like it's very rare. Like, it has to be like a pretty good game to hit me in like a very specific way. Like, I liked Dead Cells and Risk of Rain 2 and stuff like that, but a Blind Nightmare stream wouldn't be a bad idea. Even disregarding your opinion on the game, if you see the sheer... No. I think it's objectively a really good game. I'm able to acknowledge that a game is very good while also acknowledging that it's not for me. You know?
All right, I'm back.
Hey. Yeah, I couldn't... I wish I loved Hollow Knight.
Oh, yeah. Do you like any of the Souls games, Dark Souls?
Not really, no. I'm pretty...
They're similar. It's just 2D.
Yeah, I think I appreciate some of the Dark Souls games. Like, the only Dark Souls... Or not... Well, it's not really a Souls, because it's not in the Souls series, but it's a From game.
Bloodborne?
Bloodborne and Sekiro were the only ones that I really dove into. And I think it really is just the verticality of Sekiro that got me, where it was just like, I don't necessarily like, and this goes back to Halo as well, where it's like, I don't necessarily enjoy games where I feel stapled to the ground as much as I enjoy games where I feel like I can jump at least.
Sure. That makes sense.
And Dark Souls, because it's all role-oriented, and it's like, I could play it. I'm not very good at it, so I never got super far in them. But Bloodborne pulled me through a decent amount of it. I wasn't great at that one either, but I loved the aesthetic of that game.
Yeah. Victorian.
Hamdog, thank you for the Twitch Prime. The setting of that game really did a lot of the heavy lifting for me.
That's what I feel most people who love Bloodborne love it for.
Yeah, it's a great aesthetic.
Because it's just another Souls game, but Victorian.
Yeah,
really.
It looks like Castlevania to me. Like, it looks like what a modern 3D Castlevania, if it was good, would look like. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is pretty
I've,
aesthetically pleasing.
I've gone through all of them except Sekiro, which was put on hiatus as of me getting tendonitis. And so that was a good 2 months ago, and I guess I will return to it in the next couple weeks because I'm starting to get better.
That's great.
And,
It's good that you're improving. Like, how it just like, how did you? What does it feel like when you first noticed that that's happened? Is it just like a?
You know, it wasn't that it came out of nowhere. It was that I had always had kind of like a strain in my right wrist / tendons,
Right.
like forearm tendons, from editing a lot. And you know, you can watch any one of my Kimba highlight videos. You'll see a couple moments where I'm like, just like doing a little weird stretch with my hand, and I was just like, it didn't matter because although there was some strain, in a normal year, I would have a week off at some point. I would go to a convention. I would go to a film festival. I would see family. I would do social things where I'm not at my computer or I'm not, doing
yeah.
whatever. This past year, COVID-19 happened. And during those normal points of taking a break where I would normally be at a convention, at a film festival, not doing things at my computer, mouse, and keyboard. Even if I were taking a break during COVID-19, what was I doing during my break? I was in my home. I was on my computer. I was on my phone using my wrist. And so because those natural points of taking a break were just absent this past year, it wound up compounding instead of getting better. Because like before, I would have these moments where I'm like, it's like I'm feeling a little bit of strain, and then I'd go to a convention for a week and then be like, oh, it's not hurting so bad anymore. Like it's not perfect, but whatever, like it wasn't a big deal. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
It's turning into a problem now. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to figure out what's going on, go to the doctor. Oh, I have tendonitis. Oops. And, as a person that's a workaholic and everything involving work is just mouse, keyboard, phone nonsense, it's a little difficult to try and heal, but I'm getting the hang of it and trying my best. And, even just hopping on this stream is kind of helping out, honestly, because I can just talk and hang out without being distracted by something on my phone without doing something else. So
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I'm
in the final stretch though, so
that's good. Yeah.
Should be back to almost normal in a week, hopefully. Please. But...
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I've never had anything like tendonitis, but like I went through 27. I'm 27 years old. I went 27 years without spraining or breaking anything, and then just in a moment, just ruined a perfect record.
Spraining your ankle, you said?
Yeah, which is a very weird injury if you've never had it before.
Yeah. It's not the worst.
It's not. Yeah, I'm definitely. I'm glad I didn't
a knee
break
and got
it.
a broken arm.
I've dislocated my knee like a lot.
Oh shit! Well, what do you mean you've never broken or sprained? The dislocating a knee is pretty bad.
It's not a sprain though. Not exactly.
I mean, I guess it's not, but when you made it seem like you had a perfect track record of not hurting yourself.
Listen, that is fair. Honestly, I forgot.
How'd
I
you
totally forgot
dislocate your
until
knee?
I had to mention. Exactly. Like I was literally just running, and you know what it was? I was running up a flight of stairs, and I was like, I could skip 4 steps, and
then it just fell out.
And I did successfully, but I stood there like my one foot was on the first step, my other foot was on like the 5th step, and I was like, I'm stretching in a very weird way, and this is not.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, this is probably not a good position for my body to be in, and then it just like snapped or like popped out and popped back in. And I remember that was...
So you weren't doing anything particularly dangerous. It just happened.
No, I was just like... It was literally just... I was stretched in a weird way. and I was just in a way that I've never
Yeah.
been stressed before. I was just like, God damn. It was so, and I still have like, it doesn't hurt anymore or anything, but like, I still have like apprehension about my knees.
Mine still hurts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Unfortunate.
Maybe it does hurt, and I'm just used to it. That's always a
Yeah,
possibility.
I dislocated my knee dancing high on ecstasy at Rainforest 2012. The furry convention that got canceled because people were such assholes.
Oh my God!
In
Is that the one?
2015, yeah, the infamous one, yeah,
Right.
because it's in Seattle and it's a 3-hour drive or whatever. It was so easy to go to. Yeah, I was dancing and dislocated my knee at a furry convention. That was fun. Forgot to get medical insurance for the 2 or 3 days that I was out of my healthcare free country. That was an issue. Yeah, went to the hospital. They popped my knee back in, came back in crutches. While I was in the hospital, I made a phone call to my parents because I was like, I don't know what I still worked at Best Buy at the time.
Right. Yeah.
I wasn't like a
Oh,
successful
I worked at
YouTuber or
I worked at a Sears.
anything. Yeah.
It was awful.
Oh, very nice. And so I phoned my parents expecting a conversation like, hey, I'm in the United States right now and I dislocated my knee and I didn't get health insurance because I'm stupid. So just letting you know, that was the conversation I was expecting to have. My brother picks up, who was apparently at my parents' place at the time. I guess he was just moved back in with them for a short amount of time. I don't remember the context. And he answers, and he sounds very, very insistent to come get me from Seattle. And he's like, I'm going to pick you up. I'm like, why? Like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to pick me. Like, my parents' place is in Edmonton, Alberta. So, like, 13-hour drive from Vancouver.
Oh yeah, I've been
Vancouver
there.
is a 3-hour drive from Seattle. It's like, it would be a whole 16-hour thing for him to get to Seattle.
Yeah, I've been to Edmonton.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Why? Just put mom and dad on. He's like, no, I'll come get you, little brother. I'm like, what? Okay. And then they pop my knee back in and they shoot me full of some drugs. And I go back to the convention and I come back on crutches. And there's like, it was such a fucking crazy fucking year. It was so stupid. Part of the reason why Rainforest got shut down is because there were like no guidelines or rules, and there were a bunch of people there that should have been banned but weren't. And there was like somebody who was like high on mushrooms and attacked somebody in a pool, and I saw them being wheeled into the same hospital as me on the same night. I was like, "Hey, it's you!"
Oh my
the guy who
God.
attacked somebody in the pool on mushrooms. And
That's
yeah, that was
crazy.
stupid. And so I go back to the convention in my crutches. I'm like, man, I guess my brother's gonna come get me tomorrow. And like talking with people, like they're like, wow, you have such a nice brother. I'm like, wow, this is weird. And I go to bed in the most uncomfortable position I could possibly be in because I'm like in a new crutch and my knee is dislocated. And I wake up and my dad's calling me and he's like, do you know what happened to your brother last night? I'm like, what? He's like, your brother is in Jasper, and he woke up there and he doesn't know how he got there.
What?
I'm like, what? And it turns out that he was like drunk and on like weird cold medication and had some sort of interaction where he was high out of his mind. And when I was talking to him on the phone, he was sleep talking. So like some sort of like weird fucking
Oh my
like,
God.
weird
That's
I don't know, what was
fucking-
Roseanne Barr's excuse?
Oh,
Like
Ambien?
I don't know. I don't think it was Ambien. He was like cold medication and drunk out of his mind. Like he wasn't conscious when he was talking to me that whole time. And so he drove like 12 hours on the highway. He stole my parents' vehicle. Didn't remember it. and was headed to come get me. Didn't bring his passport, so if he got to the border, he would have been fucked.
Oh my
Possibly
God.
should have, maybe could have, would have died on the way there anyway because he was sleep driving. He woke up, like, pulled over to the side of the road, like 12 hours away from my parents' house, and like, what the? It was so weird, and like, my dad's like grilling me. He's like, "Oh, your brother. So, do you know what happened?" I'm like, "No. By the way, Dad, I'm in the United States with a dislocated knee right now." And so, like, my parents and their two children, like, one of them's in the States with a dislocated knee without health insurance, and the other one just like sleep drove to Jasper, like 12 hours away from there, like in the Rocky Mountains, basically, and doesn't know how they got there. My mom had to like drive in the other car to like pick him up because he was scared and didn't know what was going on. It was like, oh my God.
Holy shit.
And so like, if I didn't make that phone call, if I didn't freak dislocate my knee by just dancing at a furry convention and make that phone call, he never would have taken the vehicle and made that trip. Right?
That is so fucking...
But I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah, no, of course. Why would you? That's like some fugue state shit.
Yeah.
That is honestly wild. I wish
Yeah.
interesting things like that would happen to me. I don't have any interesting stories like that. I've done nothing.
I've got way too many, and it's disturbing. I'm like, why? Why? Stop giving me wild cards.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Let me have a normal life, please.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for you could write a book one day, or pay somebody to write your book. I toyed around with the idea.
Inspiration.
I toyed around with the idea of maybe I shouldn't say this publicly because it would be a good idea, but like whatever, I don't care. I toyed around with the idea of trying to like secure a book deal where I would like have a ghostwriter write the whole thing without telling me like what he was, just make a bunch of shit up about my life and then go on tour and do interviews about the book about my life that I didn't read, that the ghostwriter made up entirely. I think it could be fun, but
How does that work practically? Like, what sparked that?
I don't know. I just thought it would be like an amusing premise for something to try, just to be sitting in like a I don't even know, just like at an interview place or like a place where they're like interviewing me for some reason, and they're just like, hey, you know, like in chapter whatever you talk about like when you joined the Insane Clown Posse. And I was like, oh yes, I remember. Yeah, that was a long week. I was like, I thought it was a month. It's like, yes, sorry, I misspoke. A month.
Yeah.
I
If
don't
you
know.
see Nathan For You, it'd be like the movement book.
Yeah.
Where he learned how to lose weight by moving boxes.
Oh my god, I love that show.
Best show. If you love Nathan For You, I gotta recommend to you Nirvana the band, the show.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah, Nirvana the
Perfect.
band, the show is
Yeah,
fucking
great.
wonderful. I haven't actually finished it.
How'd you
actually.
discover it? Was it from me or from somebody else?
I think I saw. It's hard for me to remember. I think I saw some clip of it trending, but I don't remember, or not trending, but just like on my Twitter feed or whatever. This is years ago, by the way, so I don't remember what exactly it was, but it made me laugh, and I was just like, yo, what's this? And somebody just told me, and I searched it, and
Was it We Shop Wednesday?
I wish I could remember exactly what it was. I don't think it was We Shop Wednesday. It was Oh no, it was like a song. I haven't seen it. It was like a song that they were writing in like the apartment where they were. I can't remember if they were ad-libbing or not. It's been a minute since I've seen this show, but it got me, and I was like, this is this looks really weird.
So good.
It is really great. I'm really glad. I'm glad that there's
One
like
of
still
one
TV
of
like
few
that.
instances of good Canadian content.
The
Very few.
Yeah. Well, I used to watch the first girlfriend I ever had in high school turned me on to Kenny versus Spenny.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that.
And that was one.
The other instance of Canadian content.
Yeah. That was one that I watched a lot. But
Yeah.
what the hell? Wait, am I going the right?
Canada's so small and unimportant that I have interviewed people from both of those shows.
That's kind of amazing. That's kind of awesome. Like what? Like that's like the U.S. is so big and it's annoying in comparison. You know?
True. We have solidarity. Yeah. I was talking to Jay actually earlier this week from Nirvana the band, asking him about some music shit, some plans for my second album.
Oh, that's cool. What do you so do you produce it yourself, or do you have
That was my first album. I produced the whole thing.
crazy?
The second album, I'm looking to get some second opinions, basically.
Oh.
Try to get, not necessarily change the goals, but change. So I have things in my head that I want translated into real life music.
Mm-hmm.
I can, play parts, learn parts, compose, whatever. But in terms of like the mixing and mastering process, in terms of like miking things, there are people with more experience than me that would have, some valuable things to say, and I would always have the final word and be able to say, no, that sucks, or yes, that's a good idea. But it's always good to have input, and so that's kind of what I'm thinking for my next project. And
Yeah, no, absolutely.
A couple years in the future, I'll record something, and yeah.
Yeah, the whole production angle is so interesting because, like,
it's complicated.
Yeah, I don't know the first. Like, I could definitely I can write music, I can write songs. I understand how to like put together a nice sounding like sequence of chord progressions. I understand how to like change keys and all that shit. It's just literally the recording and the mixing where it's completely alien to me. I cannot for the life of me. And I've watched producers work, and they're like, "Oh, you just do this, and that," and I'm like, "Oh, cool." I don't know what the fuck you just did.
Mastering is so stupid. Like, it's ridiculous.
Like, I don't know if you know Jonathan Young. He does a lot of he does a lot of like he does like metal versions of a lot of songs. Like he'll take like anime theme songs, and he's amazing at it. But I remember I recorded a song by myself, and I was like, "Oh, I like the idea here, but like I'm not gonna put it out because I can't mix this well." And he was like, "I'll take a look at it for you." And like a couple hours later, he sends it back to me, and it sounds like purely professional. It's not like he didn't like play new guitar for me. He didn't like do his own shit. It's literally just my shit, but it sounds as if I know what I'm doing, and it's amazing when you hear that. It's when you hear you doing stuff that sounds incredible, it's almost worth like just having a producer there.
And that is why there's such a gigantic disconnect between the artists that you see when you see the name, the product, the brand, somebody like Justin Bieber, versus the people pulling the strings behind the scenes that are actually making the music, right? Where it's like, I feel like that is so much more of a pervasive problem in the music industry than it is the film industry, where it's like, there's some directors that people know the name of, like Christopher Nolan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Quentin Tarantino, Wes Anderson. Like, there are some that are household names where it's like, oh, the actors are in the film, but there's people behind the scenes that are making it the way that it looks, the way that it sounds, etc., etc. You don't see a lot of that same knowledge for music, where it's like, oh, you see an artist name, and you associate everything with that artist name, but then if you look on Wikipedia, it's like, oh, there are like 5 songwriters for this song. Turns out Will Smith's children didn't write these songs themselves. Holy shit, right? Turns out that he just had a lot of money that he threw, and that, like, there's just so much of it that people aren't aware of and people aren't conscious of, especially in the music industry. There's just so much of that. It's, in some ways frustrating, but I think I did like a good job with what I had as just me making something by myself. I'm proud of what I made, but I'd like to see if I can expand that and get some other perspectives on my next project. The
thing that always bothered me about like just the whole mixing thing is just like hearing my stuff mixed properly was weirdly frustrating, because it's just like, damn, so like I'm kind of good at this, I just can't do that last thing like by myself.
It's the tricky part.
Because I'm used to like,
you can do it live.
Exactly. Like I could do this live, but like not, I can't. Man, it's so frustrating because I'm so used to trying to learn everything, Like I remember because when I was learning how to
exactly.
edit, that was all I was doing. I was just like looking up like tutorials on how to edit when I was like a kid, and I was like practicing and like looking up all these like new shortcuts and shit, to the point where I can edit pretty proficiently now, to a degree that I think most people probably can't. And I'm thankful that I can do that. But this music shit is just such a different language that
it's really difficult to understand what you're doing wrong when you do something wrong.
Exactly.
It's really difficult to understand like what to fix about something. With video editing, it's really easy to understand. In my opinion, well, I mean, maybe we're biased because we
I think
both
you're
understand how to do it. But like music, it's like there's not just subtlety, but like there's not like an easy route to like, I guess, articulate what you want out of it, or like what's missing from like. You can write something, and there's a song there, and the instruments are there, and the recordings are there, but it's like, what's the difference between that and a professionally produced song? You don't understand the difference. So it's really difficult to get to the professionally produced part because you don't know what the difference is. It's really
I think it's
really
totally
difficult.
I think it's totally accurate.
Even if it's like yeah, even if it's like taught professionally, it's still really difficult.
Because even a novice,
get a feel for it.
Even a novice person who's like watching a video can tell if, I don't know, if your video, like if you move the video out of the viewer window frame, right, and there's just like a black bar at the top, in one shot, and it's like, oh, every person who's gonna see that is going to notice that there's something wrong. It's pretty easy to notice errors. But like,
oh yeah, music is so much more.
But music,
subtle.
Yeah, it's so much more subtle, and largely because everybody hears frequencies differently, and like that varies based on age and even just like speaker setup, and video is going to look the same no matter how you're going to look at it. There might be different like colors and maybe monitors with like color grading and stuff that might be a little bit more subjective to that kind of variety, but. Music is so, like, there are songs that I remember liking from when I was a kid that I hear now, and I like them still, but I'm noticing, oh, I can hear the bass a lot more clearly now than I used to be able to. And it's like, wow, that's so weird. I never heard that part of this song because my ears weren't developed.
And also, depending on, if you're listening to them on different types of speakers or different volume, headphones especially, but I think that there's a bigger reason for why this is the case. It's because sight is a primary sense in human beings. Yeah. And auditory senses is secondary. Whereas like if we were like a completely different, if we were bats, then it would be the exact opposite. We'd be like, oh yeah, like I know exactly what's wrong with the sound of this, but I don't know how this visually looks wrong, right? But like human beings, like our brains are wired to have sight as a primary sense, whereas like most people, like I feel like I have a pretty good comprehension of music theory, ear training. I'm really good at hearing certain sounds and relating them to others. So there's been points in my film reviews where I've been like, okay, this song is like obviously trying to emulate this. This is the same chord progression as this. I compared Lady Gaga's bullshit to the Frozen thing in one part. Like, I'm able to incorporate those things because I have that particular sense for it. And I understand that most people don't. That is like a fucking... It feels like a superpower with how detached most people are from that. And not to say like, oh, I'm a god with my ears or anything. Because like I said, in terms of mixing and mastering, there's a lot of things auditorily, if that's a word, that I am just not aware of on my end that other people are. But it's like, there's just so much going on in terms of like our senses of sound that just like the average human being, even if you're an expert in one part of that sound, it's just like there's so much more of it that like you can't comprehend because it's not a primary sense.
Yeah, totally. It's really multifaceted. Off topic, but music theory is so awesome. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I've just always been bad at it. I understand what sounds good, but I don't know the whys. Like that's kind of the big thing. It's hard for me to like relate like exactly why I know what I know, which means
so. You were taught guitar in what way?
Just my dad taught me guitar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he taught me like what he knew.
So
he
nothing
wasn't like
professional ever.
Yeah, nothing professional or anything. Like He wasn't like a
Okay.
professional guitar player either. He had songs that his
Nothing
grandfather
in school.
his
of
grandfather
any
taught
kind.
him, and I just kind of picked it up from there. And I learned pretty much everything by ear. I don't read
Yeah.
sheet music. I don't know if I could. I know like what the notes are and everything, but like as far as like
Yeah, I'm mostly in the same boat. I did have some professional music training for like piano. I took 1 year of guitar in high school. I took like 1 year of violin when I was like really young, and then like 6 years of piano when I was younger. And that helped me out a lot. I could have kept going professionally, Royal Conservatory, regular training or whatever, but like I was just so disinterested in sheet music. Like I loved ear training.
yeah.
To me, music is something that you hear. And although, yeah, I could like properly, I could ace a music theory test, but I couldn't necessarily play sheet music in real time. I would have to like stop and think about it. Like it wouldn't come to me like right away, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And in that sense, like, sure, there's some things that I understand better, but still, like, even with all that training, mostly in the same boat, like, there are things that I hear and there are things that I know that I want to communicate, but in terms of finding the words to communicate that, not that easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can hear a chord and then play some notes and be like, okay, the chord is B flat, E, G, or whatever, like, because that's, I can hear the same notes while I play them there. But in terms of like, I don't know, is that a minor seventh? Is that a diminished? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah. I have no fucking.
there's other terminology to it that I'd have to ask someone with a bit more formal training to explain to me.
Yeah, I don't even know the first thing about that shit, to be honest. Like I think it's all because it's almost like a different language. It's like a different language and a different kind of math also. Like in the
It
same.
is math.
Yeah, and it's just like, well, this is an area I can't fucking do it. I'm so bad at math. I can do it, but I need to stop and do it.
Yeah, people understand music in different ways. Like there's it is math, it is calculable, it is objective, but it's also a sense and it's subjective, like depending on how you want to approach it. There's people that have had so much formal training and schooling in music, and they could read sheet music and play exactly what is on a sheet of paper with absolute precision, including every single detail, pianissimo, fortissimo, etc., right? Crescendo, whatever.
Yeah.
But they couldn't compose something because they don't have that same creative part of their brain that allows them to understand what would work well in terms of like a composition, right? And that's not something you can necessarily teach in the same way that like whether or not you're talking about music or film, you can teach someone how to use the tools that exist or understand the framework of the art. But you can't necessarily teach someone how to be creative, which is why there aren't a lot of people that are successful at being artists, right? Like even at YouTube, yeah, you can teach someone how to game the algorithm, and there are people and channels that exist by doing just that. But you can't necessarily teach someone how to like connect with people and
Right.
like create a product that flows well in a pacing sense. Like I have a lot of editors for my gaming channel. This is one of the most difficult things in terms of teaching people something is pacing. And that's the most important part of the video is pacing. Right?
Yeah.
I don't care if you can Photoshop an image and green screen something, like make a joke edit, like that's fine, that's cool, I love it, but it doesn't mean anything if the video isn't paced well. And that's the most important part is knowing when to cut, how to cut it, how is this going to be interpreted from an audience, what is the audience expecting, what information is there, what context is missing, etc., right? So that's just there's some things that you just can't teach. You can't teach that in the school because it's all just like
Yeah,
so
you have to have
subjective and interpretable. Like you have to
You
live
have to
through it.
have
You have to
a
like
sense for it.
yeah,
It's really hard because I remember
trial
like
and error.
I remember because I was looking for editors just to try and like streamline my process a little bit because I was just like, it's taking me too long to fucking do shit. I gotta I gotta find some solution to this. And I remember I had some people. I gave footage to a couple people, And I was like, hey, just I gave them some guidelines. I can't remember what they were, but they came back to me and it was all super different, but like none of it was right. And like I couldn't.
Yeah.
It was so strange because I didn't think. I didn't think it would be that specific.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I don't know, like
The
it seems
feeling,
it seems
the
obvious.
pacing,
Yeah, the
right?
pacing, like even
Yeah.
just like the cuts would linger, like the
Yeah,
shots would
exactly,
linger
like,
a little bit too long, and like the
right
audio
after the
wouldn't
syllable,
L cut.
you make the cut, and then right beginning to the like, there's a purpose for that, right? Like there's an emotional reason why that's there,
Right.
and it's just very difficult to communicate sometimes. Because
Yeah.
if they don't see it, then it's like, oh well, how can you teach that?
Because I was
Right.
doing an editing stream the other day. I think yesterday or maybe the 2 days before, 2 days earlier. And I was kind of trying to explain like why I cut a certain way. Where like I don't like the look of jump cuts. I don't like the screen to look like only I have moved and like everything else
exactly.
is the same.
If you have a B camera,
I
or
have-
if you
yeah.
have B footage,
Well, what I usually do is like I'll cut to something else, or I'll cut if I have to
Exactly.
make a cut. If I have to make like a cut, I'll just cut to the same shot, but like zoomed in a little bit because it's like it's YouTube.
Yeah,
Like who cares?
exactly.
But it makes it feel more like everything is a different shot as opposed to just like, hey, here's a bunch of jump cutting
Yeah.
that just like looks kind of lazy. And zooming in is also lazy, but it's also like it helps the flow of
It works.
a little bit better.
Yeah.
To me, anyway.
If people aren't thinking about that sort of distraction and it just works well as its own product, then that's
Yeah, but when I gave that
that's
note,
what you should be doing.
every shot had like a zoom in it. I was like, what? This is not what I said.
Yeah, I every time I hire like a new editor, I go through like at least 50 different applications to like find one, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like really difficult to find one that's like on the same page. There's some people that just understand it and some that don't. And like no amount of training or schooling or like understanding of the software or what hotkeys to use will ever fully prepare someone for just like getting how something works in terms of like an entertainment value or pacing, right?
Yeah. Pacing really is a
I think they're
huge deal.
It's everything. Pacing is literally everything. I would rather have a perfectly paced video with no joke edits than a terribly paced video with like all the best joke edits, right? Like
Yeah, I agree.
The joke edits are icing to the cake. The cake is the pacing. You have nothing if you don't have a well-paced video.
I agree.
You can do anything with a well-paced video. That's like literally the entire editing process for me. It's just like where to cut, when to cut, what to cut to, what to keep, what not to keep.
Yeah, and a lot of it is kind of subjective as well. Like like somebody in the chat's being like, and keep the eye lines aligned when zooming helps the viewer not to have to search. I don't even really think of that. I just think like if this looks right to me, then it's, and I just know.
Yeah, play it back. If you play it back and it looks good to you, and you're able to put yourself in the perspective of somebody who would be watching your shit or what you would want to see, and you have some sort of authority on that perspective, then, you know, just play
Yeah.
it back, see how it looks. If it looks good, it looks good. If it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good. You know, half
Yeah.
of my editing process is like, oh, why don't I try this? And then I look at it and I'm like, that looks dumb, and I don't do it.
No, yeah,
And
exactly.
then I do something else, right? You just gotta play it back. Just watch the video.
Yeah.
That's it.
I remember I was trying to do like this. I was like, I had this idea for an edit that was like, oh, I'm gonna make like this old looking map of like upstate hell for like a. It was just some gag, but I was like, I don't really need to do this. It's like, I don't know if anybody would really, like, I don't really care to see that, you know, as a viewer. It would have been fun to do, but it also would have been like just a waste of my time.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely like a style of editing that is over present.
Oh yeah,
Um,
distracting ADHD editing.
Yeah, like I don't know how to describe this exactly, but the anytime something would like kind of zoom or move into frame, but it was like this was like a really popular editing style back in like I think like 2017, 2018. It might still be around, but I don't know. I don't really watch that much stuff lately, but this weird like MatPat style editing where like the cutout would never be still and it would just constantly be like moving and swaying as if it's like it's just constant.
Yeah, it's a little distracting.
Like ease in, ease out.
Too
and,
over present.
Yeah, and it's like, yo, calm the fuck down. You don't need to. You don't need to dangle your keys
and
in front of me.
It almost feels like a waste of time. And like, if I'm paying you for something, like, why are you spending more time on it when it would look just as good, if not better?
Yeah.
You know.
And then you lock yourself into a fucking corner where now you've established a style where everything has to be that time consuming and dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's, like a lot of really successful channels have the laziest editing, right?
Yeah.
I'm not naming any names, but there are some commentary channels that just cut to footage and then an avatar of themselves and then back to the footage and nothing. Like, you edited this in Sony Vegas by yourself and it took you 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I know. Right? Not naming any names, and that's totally fine if you want to make your content that way. But I don't know. I feel like there's a market for people who want to appreciate a bit more.
There's a time and a place for lazy. Like if I'm sitting there and I'm doing like I don't do these super often, but like if I'm doing a video where it's just literally me sitting and like talking about how I feel about a certain thing, and it's not necessarily like a piece of content per se, like a proper video, then I don't care. Whatever, I'll jump cut all. I don't give a shit. Like whatever. YouTube's a mess anyway. I don't need to. I don't need to prove to the
Pick
algorithm.
your battles.
Yeah. I'm not gonna sit there slaving over something that doesn't need to not be simple. But at the same time, like I don't know, a lot of these videos that I see are just like, this is
when an entire channel is lazy.
Yeah.
And there's no videos that aren't lazy, then it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 minutes left.
I'm not a big fan of over-edited shit, but I still really like Seth's stuff. I don't even know who Seth is. I can feel myself becoming a fucking boomer, not knowing people when they mention them. It's like, oh, this guy's content. It's like, oh, yeah.
The TikTok child. I know.
Oh, man, you know more than I do then.
No, I don't know that person. But you know what's really cool? Is, like, we're a part of this frontier where we were, a part of the OG YouTube shit.
Yeah, it does feel weird to know that you were way bigger way earlier. Because I remember your stuff from, like, really early. But
that's cool.
Yeah, because I was always on the site. Like, I was on, I think I started the channel in, like, I think 2007. So I've been around like for a while.
Oh wow.
But it wasn't until like
2014
that I started really trying to do anything with it. Somehow turned out.
Yeah, it's really quite a fucking trip. Not surprising, and I don't feel weird about you saying it or anything because I'm used to it. But like it's, I guess just in general, just like, I don't know. Like, I consider myself a human being. I don't...
Yeah.
Maybe that I understand that there are people who exist on YouTube that get so involved in their own ego that they put themselves on a pedestal and think that they're fucking Jesus incarnate or whatever. But, like, I look at myself as just, like, a regular dude, right? And then I'm constantly having to... I guess, like, come to terms with and reaffirm or rediscover that, like, oh, wait, like, I guess I am, like, a major YouTuber that is highly respected in some senses.
Yeah.
And has connections and friends in high places. And they're, some people are just friends with me because they're clout chasing, I guess. Like, I have to be wary of, like, who's...
Yeah, that's
talking to me because we connect, or who's talking to me because they don't want to offend me and piss off other people that like me or something. Like
that's why
I don't know. Like I have to remind myself of that. It's weird.
That's why I feel like that's.
Hey, Surfs. Hello.
Oh shit.
Sorry.
Are they in chat? Oh hey, what's up?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, it's YMS.
It is.
Yeah, no, I think I haven't thought about this until recently, but I think that's probably why. I've had the same core group of friends for like a really long time, and I think that's probably why. I think it's just like these guys were here before I had any of this, so it's like, all right, you did good. I like you. I'll keep you around. But
I feel like
strange.
it's partially that for me, but also like
They're also just good people, to be honest.
I feel like maybe perhaps I have like some awareness of like who is being sincere or not. But then another part of my brain is thinking like whether or not they're sincere doesn't really affect how I should treat them.
Right.
So like I'll just treat people like they're decent people either way.
That's the
And
way
if
to
they
go
turn
about it.
out to be assholes, then I've learned a lesson. You know?
Yeah. No, I think that's valid.
Yeah.
Obviously. But
But who knows?
All right.
It's so weird.
I am not making progress on this at all.
No worries. You want to go to bed? I know you're saying like 20 minutes. It's been like 35 or something, right?
Yeah, I might start wrapping up here. But thanks for jumping on. I don't
It was
normally
great
do
talking
this, and
to
it's kind of fun. I like it.
I'm glad I bullied you into letting me onto your stream. It's
Anytime.
exactly what I needed today, actually.
Oh, glad to hear it.
My arms have been rested this entire conversation. They've just been folded in my lap. Ideal.
Well, keep
Not
them,
distracted by a phone, not distracted by a mouse or keyboard.
Yeah,
I'm healing.
the mouse and keyboard will fuck you up, man. Like I.
They really will. It's like fuck. I've been trying to just watch good content on my projector, and it's like after like a month and a half, I'm just like I'm so restless. Like even when it's good shit, I'm just like, what am I do? Like I feel like I need to do something. Like I don't know. I'm kind of a workaholic, but I don't know.
I'm kind of the same way. Yeah.
This conversation was great.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. No.
Come
totally.
to Canada.
I will.
You got a room.
Oh well,
guest
now
room.
yeah. Now I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow then. But no, I will be there soon. I will definitely this year. I plan on like flying all over the place. So
Awesome. Give me notice. 'Cause
I will obviously tell you.
I'm also planning on flying all over the place, so we'll have to coordinate so that I'm not out of town
Yeah.
when you fly here.
I want to go to Seattle at some point. So if you're there,
Seattle.
yeah. If you're
It's
there,
a 3-hour drive.
Oh
so
well.
it's really easy for me to get there.
All right. Cool. Yeah. I'll hit you up then.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for the chat. That was awesome.
Yeah. No. Anytime.
Love
man.
you.
Love you too.
Bye
man.
bye. Have fun. I'm going to go to sleep. Bye bye.
All right. Take care, man.
Bye, chat.
That was nice.
Hey guys, hope you liked the video. It's July 2021, so I have to update the Patreon credits. Wholesome 100 Big Chungus Lemonade Warrior, Big Weld from Robots the Animated Movie, Serazer, Mandelbro, Unlucky T, Kel Hunt, Wales, Simon Meadow Valley, Bo the Doggo, Boards of Cinema, Purple Fire, Kai Butcher, Pit Inhabitant, Gabriel Herrera, Kirby Mon, Splat, Hoofy Doe, Olivia Spores, Ocean Machinery, Malav Shah, and Ali Matamid. Heads up for Criterion fans, by the way, there's going to be a half-off sale at Barnes & Noble starting on July the 2nd. I'm not sponsored by Criterion, just wanted to give everyone a heads up. See ya.